you drew. Roughly 45
Yeah.
degree
So
angles.
now raise
Very
the
rough.
altitude. Now raise the altitude.
So how would if I raise the altitude, I'll raise the elevation angles, though, wouldn't I?
If you raise the altitude, eventually you won't be able to see the other side, right?
I'm stuck with those elevation angles, aren't I?
Why can't you raise the moon up higher?
Because then the elevation angles of that triangle would change, wouldn't they, radically differently?
Hey,
Yeah.
are all the
I've drawn
has a real quick?
roughly.
I see your picture of that triangle. I'm just wondering, are all the verticals perpendicular to that horizontal line?
Why don't you just focus on what's in the picture rather than going off somewhere else because you don't know what's in the picture and chuckling?
Okay.
I was just wondering if you took those angles, right, and then that's completing a triangle. So you have 3 straight lines there, and I'm wondering if one is horizontal and all the verticals are perpendicular to the horizontal.
Well, one is horizontal, and there's 2 lines at roughly 45 degree elevation angles. So clearly, if I keep that, pretty much dictates where the topology of where the moon is in that picture, doesn't it? Really, if it's if
Okay. Let me post something in the chat and.
So, Pazza, what are you saying about it? That you should. What's your claim about it? Something about the moon?
Well, word salad
Okay,
was saying that.
Pazza. Here's the picture. Now, do you see my drawing? If the moon was
Yep.
there, people would see the other sides. But if you raise the moon altitude, you would be able to see less and less of the sides. So if I drew that picture, wouldn't that be a straw man of flat Earth, right? And then
But
you
that
drew the
picture,
picture. Isn't that a straw man too?
Word salad. What you've done on my drawing is you've drawn 2 lines which clearly aren't around the 45 degree elevation angle, which Stellarium says they are.
Well, how do you know
He's saying he took an angle measurement. He said he took an angle measurement to the moon.
You're using trigonometry.
Yeah, I'm using trigonometry for your example here.
Yeah, but your baseline is curved.
That streetlights would drop down.
One at a time, lads. One at a time.
Trigonometry is not accurate to perspective.
Oh, okay, that's how it works.
It's not even close to accurate. I can drop trigonometry angles, then actual angles of small objects, like just a small piece of wood.
So how do you explain the fact they're both looking? Yeah. So how do you explain the fact they're looking at roughly 45 degree elevations from 2 roughly completely different in 2 different directions at 5,000 miles apart? Can they be seeing exactly the same perspective of the object in the sky? How can that be possible?
Yes. So it would be expected that would happen because the higher up an object is, actually, the steeper the angle will get. The more steeper it will appear to drop down due to perspective and convergence.
No, but you're running away from the fact that you're running away from the fact that in a week's time, someone in Johannesburg will look 45 degree elevation to see the moon, and someone in Perth in Australia will on the same night at the same time. They're 5,000 miles apart. If you try and draw it, represent this with 2 elevation angles, clearly where those lines meet will be where the thing is, and they're not looking from the same perspective on the same object, are they?
You can't use trigonometry because it's not the same thing as perspective.
But draw what we would use. It doesn't
match real life the way your eyes work. So
you're not.
Wait a minute. Trigonometry
I'm
for
talking about
streetlights would never drop down.
You guys are doing really well. Just keep trying that one at a time thing. You're doing really well though.
I'm telling you what would be observed and the distance between them, and you're pretending that the light rays leaving the moon and reaching our eyes aren't following those straight lines, aren't you?
Yeah. So do streetlights drop down?
It's got nothing to do with perspective.
It has absolutely everything to do with perspective.
Draw it then. Draw what I did. Draw the equivalent of what I drew, where they share the same perspective.
You're saying that the moon you shouldn't see at a 45 degree angle, and you're using trigonometry.
Right. Well, now you're just departing from you're parting from the objective evidence we have. You're departing from that to say something that is genuinely word salad now, because you're not able to draw it.
Okay. What is word salad? You cannot find anything I said that was word salad.
I can. You're saying if it's high enough, you'll see the same thing. But if it's much higher than that, you're not looking at a 45-degree elevation to see it, are you anymore? You're looking at an 89-degree or an 85-degree angle.
Okay, and once again, you're using trigonometry to predict those angles.
No.
You're not.
You're objecting to someone. You're objecting to someone coming up with a propositional drawing which shows two people on a flat surface 5,000 miles apart, looking looking at the angles they'd be looking at to see the same thing, and you're just rejecting all of that, but you're not actually presenting any geometry or any drawings, and that's telling. You're just saying nah.
You can't use geometry or trigonometry because that has nothing. They do not work the same way that your eyes.
Wait, do you mean like on stuff in the sky, or what do you mean exactly? Like,
yeah, of course you can use.
They like to draw. They like to draw straight lines and pretend that we have box vision.
Well, we can build a house like that, right? We can build a house like that, right?
Instead of all this coping mechanisms,
hold on,
why don't you draw the lines of light coming from the moon in that diagram that should arrive at 45-degree-ish elevation angles to these positions?
Hold on, Pazza.
Get your pen out.
Hold on, Pazza. I want to ask Warsaw something. Are you saying like the sky, like there's like curved visual space, like you have a personal dome? So then when you try to draw those lines, like the angles to the moon and everything, the moon isn't in like a actual position, it's in a apparent position?
Correct. Yes, I would word it differently, but yeah. So basically, like if you look at street lamps, if you look at street lamps and you're at the eye level, they will appear to not drop down when you're at the height of the top of the street lamp. Then if you go down to where you're standing at ground level, then they will appear to have a steeper angle towards the ground. Now lie down on the ground, they have a even more steeper angle. Trigonometry does not predict that they will drop down like that.
It absolutely does. Go ahead and draw the side view and draw the arrows, and it'll be exactly what you see.
Cut off.
If you're looking at something,
no. Wait, hold on. Trigonometry doesn't. Wait. Trigonometry doesn't make a statement about optics. That's silly.
Do you agree that your eye has angular resolution?
Oh my god.
That doesn't do what we're talking about.
You can't answer.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I have to get going in a couple minutes. So.
Yeah, we need to think about this, because if you're looking up at 45 degrees in the sky and someone else is 5,000 miles away in the opposite direction looking up 45 degrees in the sky, how do you envisage where the moon is in that scenario?
Okay. Is the street light, is it in, when you, based on your elevation, it's in a different, okay.
We're talking about the moon and its observation, aren't we?
Yes.
I think he's trying to ask you a qualifying question. Get Edwards, Helen.
So if you have a street light, based on your elevation, will it appear to drop steeper? As it gets further away, will it have a steeper angle towards the ground? So like if you have a row of street lamps, do you agree that the higher up that you are, the less of the steep? Sorry, I'm not wording it correctly. The lower you are to the ground, the steeper the angle will be. So like if until it's almost at a 90-degree angle, so that if it's really, really high up, it will appear to have a 90-degree angle appearing to drop down. That's what we see the moon doing, which means the moon is pretty high up. Do you agree that the lower you get, the steeper the angle becomes?
The lower you get, the steeper. You mean steeper, higher in the sky? You mean elevation-wise?
I struggled to follow that question. Did anyone else?
Me too.
Could you try rewording that so maybe Pazza can understand better? I struggled to follow there.
So, if you look at a row of street lamps and you're at the your eye level is at the top of the street lamps. So, are you following that?
Yeah, think about that. Eye level. They'll stay at eye level because of perspective.
Yeah. So you agree that street lamps, the top of them will appear to follow a straight line all the way to till it disappears.
Can you hear me? Because I just answered that.
The premise is kind of flawed. I mean, it's either going to fade left or right. If you're looking at it straight on, then the one that's in front of you is going to be the largest optical resolution, and so it's going to actually block out all the ones behind it, which actually still makes the point you're trying to make. But
But yeah, so yeah, they'll generally be able to follow straight lines. Like you wouldn't see the one in the back be very low compared to the one in the front, right?
Okay, but what's this got to do with the moon?
Yeah, so now if you decrease your elevation, now you view them from ground level. The one in the front will be way higher than the one in the back. And then if you lie down on the ground, the one in the back will be way, way lower than the one in the front, and it'll be actually way closer to the horizon.
Yeah.
Do you agree with all that?
Okay.
So
yeah,
tell
okay.
me
Let's supposing I agree with all that. Then let's talk about the moon in this scenario.
Okay, the moon is completely applying with this because
Okay.
when you have a certain altitude to the moon, it will appear to drop down at a certain rate. So your trigonometry angles do not predict that street lamps will do that the same way. But
why you bring back to street lamps again? Let's talk about the moon.
Yeah.
Two people, 5,000 miles apart, one looking east, one looking west at the moon.
Okay, why do street lamps not valid in this argument?
But let's talk about what I brought to the table. Why are you doing this?
Because street lamps have everything to do with it. Because it's basically a celestial object, but you know that these street lights are not.
Okay, so
physically dropping down.
I said I'll agree with everything you've got to say about street lamps. Let's get back to what I brought to the table. The moon. Two places, 5,000 miles apart. One looking east, one looking west. Both of them at roughly 45-degree elevation angles, they see the moon. Let's talk about that.
And how did you get those elevation angles?
What do you mean, how did you get them? Oh, come on, man. You're looking in the night sky.
You use geometry.
All right, I'll leave it there. Where it's if you can ask me how I get an elevation angle to a star at night, then
I'm trying to get you to realize something, but you apparently
don't. What are you trying to get me to realize? Do you think we can't work out the elevation of a star at any given time in the night sky? You think there's a problem with that?
No.
What came first? Sync rate.
Sorry, Gio. It's a freezer, but I can leave the area.
Bank
angle.
Anybody
want to address this?
Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, it sounds way better. There's like a beeping sound that was.
One of my freezers is like it never wants to acknowledge that it is actually closed. But yeah. I don't know. Can someone else explain to whoever that was, Kazak? Can someone else explain it better? Because I do have to get going.
Are you trying to say that streetlight convergence? You're trying to talk about that?
Well, yeah, he's like applying geometry and angles that you draw like in 2D, trying to apply it to your eyes, even though your eyes don't work that way with objects.
Well, can you draw how it does work? Because you've got two places, 5,000-ish miles apart, instantaneously looking at the moon. One's looking due east, one's looking due west.
That's his point. Wait. I can make this a lot easier for you. That's his point, is that you can't draw it, right? Because you're seeing it from the perspective of an observer. We're not looking at this from like pure Euclidean space. It's not something you can draw because you're talking about observations of the sky from a lens.
In other words, you can't model it.
We can't.
But if you're on,
we can't understand the sky.
That Earth is unmodelable.
Yeah, but wait, reality is non-Euclidean, obviously, but we do use Euclidean on the ground, right? But you guys would have to agree you wouldn't be able to draw this either, because when you draw that 90
even
degree...
NASA agrees. NASA says the moon's in apparent positions. It's like, this is old. This is not an argument.
Yeah, you guys have to agree with it simply because of this, Paz. When you draw that 90-degree angle, dude, when you draw the 90-degree angle down from the moon there, and then you derive that distance, you like do this whole Haversine formula thing and all this stuff. It's like weird, but it's a 90-degree angle, and 90-degree angle makes perpendicular lines. And perpendicular lines are straight, dude. They're not curving.
This is all just diverging away from the data.
In reality,
in this diagram is quite clear.
Well, it's impossible.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I'm going to be going now.
Observations of the moon are undrawable.
Still has it, can't answer. You can talk after I leave. But yeah, I think you guys nailed it. What I was saying. I guess I just didn't describe it right, but yeah, thanks.
One analogy I like to use is if you put a quarter in the bottom of a pool and then you have everyone point at the pool, that'd be like drawing lines, right? Everyone would draw lines. You'd know the exact point of the pool, of the quarter in the pool. You'd have a map. You do an overhead map. But then once you fill the water with, you fill the pool with salt water and everything's refracted, everyone's going to point to a different spot where that quarter is. And all of a sudden, all your lines are not going to have a single they're not all going to intersect at the same point. You have no idea where the quarter is. It's basic refraction.
That's why you take your wedding ring off and put it in the glove box when you go to the beach.
Is anybody going to write this down and present it to the world and to a wider audience? Because I'd like to be there when that happens.
Well, what Toby just
do you agree with
refraction.
this, or are you going to disagree?
No,
he's just here. He's just here to make himself feel better by trying to argue with people without actually having an argument of his own.
No,
what he's doing is he wants he has intellectual insecurities, and so he wants to find people who are more stupid than him.
That's what he was hoping for. You're correct. That is what he was hoping for.
The whole point in the analogy is if you put a soccer ball with different colours and different areas around it at the bottom of a swimming pool, when everyone stood around it and they all pointed to it, they would all see a slightly different arrangement of colours because they're looking at and they're not seeing they're not sharing exactly the same point of view of the thing. That's the point we're trying to talk about here, which word salad made out. Word salad made out. These two places, Johannesburg and this place, he's not even giving an explanation why they're exactly the same pattern and configuration and not another bit because they're looking around it a different way. If they both see it's fair, how can they both see exactly the same thing from two different directions? Could you explain that?
I can't even draw it like that.
You get the swimming pool example that Toby laid out, right?
Yeah, so you put a football at the bottom of the swimming pool and you paint different coloured spots all around the pool and you've got people stood around the pool pointing to it without the water being there, like you just did in your analogy. They're all going to see a different arrangement of colours, aren't they? They're not going to all see exactly the same perspective of the ball. Let's go with your analogy.
Actually, if they're all wait, hold on. Actually, real quick. If they're all standing above, like looking down at the pool, pointing into it, they're all going to see one half of the ball. So, I mean, maybe you might get like a little bit more resolution if you're able to cover like a vast distance and get like actually. Let's put it this way. Let's say the swimming pool is 2 miles deep, and you have a light so bright at the bottom that everyone's pointing at it from that perspective. Then you fill that with salt water. Now the distance is. Now you're basically. Hold on. I'm kind of lost my train of thought here. But essentially, you fill if the distance was so great that you don't even actually like. Man, I am bad at articulating myself right now. Just exaggerate it. Yeah, you don't actually know the distance to the bottom, so you're actually only going to see one perspective. Everyone's going to see the exact same side of the ball, the same colors. You may see different, different amounts of certain colors from certain angles, but you're only going to see one side of the ball when the distance is great enough. Sorry that took me so long to get out.
That's fine. So everyone is stood in a way that their arm is pointing 45 degrees down rather than 90 degrees down, but somehow they're pointing 45 degrees, but the ball's
why are you changing the premise? You said it was about the colors on the ball. Why are we talking about where the arms are pointing now?
Because in this example where people are looking at the moon, their arms are all pointing in different directions, okay? And surely there must be a correlation between where they're all pointing and where the thing is.
Not necessarily. I mean, if let's say I fill a glass of water a glass with salt water and I put a straw in it and I make my assumption about where the straw is based on just purely looking at the water itself and looking at the straw in the water and not the straw in the air. And I go to put my mouth on the straw, I'm going to miss the straw, poke myself in the eye. It's not where I think it is.
Okay, but
refraction.
But would you agree? But if there are two people in Johannesburg, one in Johannesburg, one in Perth, 5,000 miles apart, and they're all pointing at 45 degrees towards the moon simultaneously, straight line pointing up 45 degrees, like two little Nazis doing a Nazi salute, both facing different directions. Yeah. Where can you draw where the lines of sight are going? Where are those going? If they reach and get the same perspective of the moon.
No, dude, you're just pointing at the sky. You're pointing at. I just explained refraction. Like you're literally just pointing at an arbitrary spot above you.
arbitrary.
I don't understand how like you just disregarded everything I said and acted like you had a new point.
Well, I didn't disregard it, but can you draw it? Can you geometrically represent two people looking in radically different directions?
No, dude, that was the first. The very first thing I said to you was that was the whole point, is that you can't draw it, and then I gave you multiple explanations behind why you can't draw it, which you seem to agree with. But now you're going back and saying, "Oh, but you can't draw it." Like that's a big problem. Like you're
how can you explain it? How can you explain it, but not
yourself? And you're making the same non-points that I've already addressed.
What value is an explanation that you can't draw a diagram of in this respect?
Okay, so when I wake up in the morning, and if I haven't drank water in 3 days, I'm going to be really thirsty, right?
Yes.
Can you draw me a picture of that?
Right, okay. But we're talking about perspective, geometry, observations, lines of sight. We're not talking about how much you had to drink, are we?
You're talking.
Wonderful analogy, but it's a bit.
It's okay. I admit it's not the best analogy, but we're talking about the sky that we haven't measured. The only way you can justify any of your claims, your bizarre claims, is if you buy into the entire heliocentric narrative and all of NASA's claims and all of the NASA footage. Otherwise, don't interrupt me. Otherwise, you're just making claims about the sky, which has not been measured. You're talking about what could literally be the exact same analogy I gave of a multiple mile deep pool with a light at the bottom, and it's filled with salt water. So you really have no idea where anything is that you're pointing at. And actually, if all these biblical cosmologists are correct, there could be a dome in between you and the pool. So who knows what the hell you're looking at?
Okay,
Toby, you can't
look at the. Let me
measure the heavens. It's impossible.
I've reposted the diagram. Can you see that I've got a flat Earth between Johannesburg and Perth in that diagram? Can you see that? I've not embraced any heliocentric voodoo.
What is the diagram going to elucidate for me? Can you just explain it?
It's showing you Johannesburg and Perth, 5,193 miles apart, looking at the exact opposite directions. One's looking west, one's looking east.
You're repeating yourself again.
Well, you asked.
I really don't think I need the diagram. You're repeating the exact same premise, and I've already addressed it twice.
Not really, because that's the diagram of where they're looking. So now I might have the bit at the top wrong. They're both clearly the bottom bits. Someone in Johannesburg,
your whole measurement is based on an observation of the top. What are you talking about? You're not making any sense. It's just such sophistry.
Let me make it easier for you then, okay? Right?
Make it real easy. Like I'm real dumb, and you're gonna explain it to me.
No, I'm not asking that. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm for
the sake of the argument, explain it to me like I'm in kindergarten, please.
Look, all right. Here's I'll repost the diagram, okay?
Dude,
hang on. Right, there they are.
Didn't you already post it twice, and I told you just explain it?
Now I've got two people, 5,193 miles apart. One looking east.
Dude, I don't need a diagram for this. What the?
Let me. All right. Let me verbalize.
All right. This guy's trolling. Can we move on? This guy is not actually he's not listening. He's repeating himself.
Because you're not giving me a satisfactory response to what's in this diagram.
You're trying to get me to agree that I can make a concrete assertion about what a point in the sky is that I've never been to. I have no means of measuring. I have no means of even fathoming how to measure it. And you want me to make an assertion about the ground beneath my feet, or about a triangle that has to be proven by the ground beneath my feet by using that said object that I don't know where it is or what the fuck it even is.
It's an absurd request because it's impossible.
You are making assertions. You're saying
it's impossible to know.
Simply a triangulated in the sky.
Wait, what's my assertion? Wait, what's my assertion?
You made the assertion we'd all see exactly the same perspective of the moon. That's an assertion.
I made the assertion that we all see the exact same perspective of the moon. What? You must not be listening very well. I talked about. You asked me how it was possible that someone could see that two different people in two different places would see the same face of the moon, and I gave you an analogy as how that could be possible. That's not what. I didn't make a claim of whatever the heck you just said I made a claim of.
Okay, and I went with your analogy because if it was a very, very deep pool, they'll all be pointing down near vertically down through this, and let's suppose they could see at the bottom. You're right; they would have virtually, as far as they could see, the same view of the pool. Okay, so let's expand that analogy of yours. They're not now all pointing vertically downwards 2 miles, but there's two guys 5,000 miles apart, and all of a sudden they're pointing 45 degrees towards from each other. Now what?
I mean, it's the same. You still have the exact same premise. And you can still just like your model does, where you extrapolate everything to infinity from the center of a presupposed globe. We can do the exact. You can make the exact same extrapolation. You're just literally. How do I put this? Like, you literally just make the pool infinitely deeper. You literally just make the pool infinitely deeper, and I can give you the exact same result. But actually, it's probably a lot more sophisticated than that, even probably a lot more complex than that, even. But I can't go up there and measure the depths of space for you.
I don't know why we're doing this. I mean, there's a diagram there. There's a two. Was anybody here
prepared to draw? But you do know why we're doing this, and you're just trying to waste my time. Like, I literally have already gone over the fact. Let's make sure. Let me make sure that you understand what I've already laid out. Let's make sure we already.
No, don't do it again. Don't do it again, please. Don't repeat
Okay,
yourself.
well, all right. That's not what I want. I would like for you to explain that if let's say we have the swimming pool example, how can you explain the necessity of a fixed point when you have two people pointing through an infinite amount of refracted salt water? Even if they're thousands of miles apart from each other, it means nothing compared to infinity, doesn't it?
Where's the infinite amount of salt water when two people are observing the moon?
Oh, yep, there you go. So you don't get my point still, huh? You really are going to pretend like you just still don't understand it? You're going to just ignore the premise and make me repeat myself yet again?
So you talk about your pool. Your pool's now full of an infinite depth of salt water.
That you even mentioned earlier, the one that we were going back and forth about and having a logical conversation about. Maybe that's what I was referring to.
Infinite depth of water in your pool now, is there?
Oh, yep. Which you agreed to the premise earlier when we were doing descriptions.
2 miles down, yeah. We'd all be looking down, but
no, we extrapolated to infinity. We extrapolated to infinity, since you just want me to come up with a way to make it work.
But in your analogy, would you agree that nobody's arms are 45 degrees from the horizontal, are they? Come on.
No, they absolutely could be. What are you talking about? Why would that be at all?
If they're all stood around the pool, and their arms are at 45 degrees, that's where they think the thing is. Then surely, once the light goes, they follow those lines, beyond their arms, they must bend down to something 2 miles down. Yeah, it must be bendy light. Yeah.
Are you trying to say you don't like? Are you trying to make an argument against the idea of refraction?
So you were saying that, yes. But if you're saying refraction, you're saying that the light bends radically when it, in this scenario. Then is that what you're asserting, effectively?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only could it be bending, it could be literally drifting.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, I actually believe that I have, the science I've seen seems to indicate that it is literally drifting. The higher you get up, the more light drifts. Huh. Interesting.
Young Tobias, after your 6-month break, you can see how much this debate has evolved and changed. It's totally different now.
That's good. That's a good one, dude.
For the sky, what you're going to do then, Tobias, is you're going to invoke as of yet unmeasured and unverified radical bendy light to make it work.
I mean, honestly, it's not just that the conversation has evolved. It's like I've talked to Pazza before. This is just him being him. He's not gonna I probably made this exact same argument with him like 7 months ago and got just as frustrated.
I've never spoke to you about this with you.
Last night, Pazza was the only one who gave us a good faith response. We were talking about empiricism, so I do want to commend you for that, Pazza. You were 100% honest. You stuck to your position. That was awesome.
That's excellent. I'm glad to hear that. That's good for your mental faculties, Paza.
Rather than having to basically strain and sweat all this time, he could have said from the get-go, "Oh, there's radically bendy light," and that would have been the end of the conversation. I don't know where to go. This pantomime of pretending there's a deep, very, very deep.
No. This is, dude. You're not going to sit here and lecture me about how I should have addressed the conversation when you couldn't understand that I gave you in my the second premise I laid out for you was an explanation of refraction. So if you didn't gather that, and now you're not gonna sit here and try and lecture me now about how I could have just used refraction in the first place.
Okay. Can I just ask, what does a refracted position of a celestial object do to the celestial theodolite claims? If they're all just in refracted position.
Don't go there.
Well, that's a great point, and that's the whole point of the experiment, right? Is of the measurements, is because you can't know where it is. Please don't know. Hey, I'm Paza. I'm making a totally unrelated point. Please don't interrupt me. Geo spoke. I'm responding to Geo. You don't need to interrupt me. So, anyways, if you have just looking at Ares' failure, we know going back to way back in antiquity that the starlight is literally moving, and it moves before we see it. So when you do the occlusion measurements that they're taking, the refraction has already taken place. So any further refraction that would be taking place is going to be minuscule compared to the amount of atmos you're coming in at that angle, let alone the untold distances to said star. And then, like I said, the measurements taken from back in antiquity so that we know that these stars have been moving, or these stars are in apparent positions that have already moved. So all that said, and then on top of that, you have the actual literal occlusion. So you have a eyesight blocking of the light. But I think it's a good point, Gio, and it's it's a topic worth discussing.
But of course, because there's radically bendy light that we can't fully quantify because we don't really understand it, we can't really come to a conclusion about.
Right. So why would you try and take measurements of the ground beneath your feet using that of all things? Yeah, it's useful for mapping. It's great. It's very useful for navigating. But to try and make concrete assertions about the shape of the ground beneath your feet, it's probably not the most reliable thing to use.
Right, and that presumes you can know the shape of the entirety. Before you even decide to use the lights in the sky to measure the shape of the entirety, you need the presumption that you can know the shape of the entirety. Which a lot of people don't grant. I don't grant that. I don't think you can know the shape of the entirety.
You don't have to know the whole thing, but we can determine whether the shape of or whether the surface of the Earth is flat or not, just by determining if the direction of down is different.
Well, let's say we take a 100-mile stretch, right? 100-mile by 1-mile stretch, and it's measured completely planar. It's completely horizontal. There's no drop. There's no slope, right? We have 100 miles by 2 miles. No drop, no slope measured. Can we use that to determine the shape of the entirety? Do you think that?
I would say it's evidence about the entirety.
Right, but then we would know the shape of that stretch, presumably, if we did measure it, and to a certain degree of accuracy. But we certainly cannot use that to make a determination about the shape of the entirety. That would be fallacious. That's a parts of the whole fallacy.
Right, but that observation would be consistent with one explanation or the other, and so it would lend evidence to one explanation or the other one.
Okay, so then you could stitch all of those 100-mile by 1 or 2 mile stretches, like they're rectangles, right? You could stitch them all together. Even if you did that, you stitch them all together, you didn't measure the entirety. You're doing a series of local measurements to make a claim about the entirety. One still be a parts of the whole fallacy. At best, it would be inductive to a certain degree of certainty, but you wouldn't have certainty. So that's my position, that you can't know the entirety. We can only measure locally, after all, right? The only measurements we can do is local measurements. You can't. Have you ever heard of a measurement that wasn't local?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So that's why I would say that it would be fallacious to claim the shape of the entirety, because in order to do so, you'd be committing the parts of the whole fallacy.
Yeah, that's if
just
you're
by
trying to prove
definition.
something. If you're doing a deductive argument, a logical proof, then that would be relevant.
Yeah, all I can do is local. I can't measure something non-locally. I wish I could, but that'd require like a God's eye view or an omniscient knowledge. I don't have that. I'm just a human who measures locally.
The only problem is that we have pictures and measurements from space that you guys just throw away because it debunks the flat Earth. So you guys have to throw it away, even though you have no good reason to throw it away.
Right, your appeal to authority says that the entirety. My appeal to authority says we can't know the entirety. You throw away my appeal to authority, but you say that if I throw away your appeal to authority, I'm not allowed to do that. My appeal to authority says we can't know the entirety.
I also I have a major objection with your idea that I somehow have to accept your burden of proof for video evidence. That is absolutely outrageous.
Right, I never claim that you have to accept my appeal to authority. I never claim that anyone has to say, oh, well, God says that we can't know it, therefore you guys should accept that. I would never claim that. So you shouldn't claim that, some guys in lab coats say that we can see the entirety. I don't accept your claim of men in robes.
Well, I mean, you guys talk about evidence, right? So what do we have for the evidence? We have...
Who talked about what evidence? Wait, which evidence are we referring to? Who talked about what evidence?
You said, why do we have to? You said, why do we have to accept your authority? And it's not about authority.
No. It's not. I said, why should I accept your burden of proof for video footage? And we're specifically talking about video footage, which is a phenomenon that I cannot corroborate in any means.
So we want to talk about evidence, right? Ultimately, our goal is to talk about evidence, and the evidence of this, what you call video from space or whatever, isn't just that video, right? There's a whole bunch of other evidence that goes along with it that you guys have not debunked.
Which evidence?
Which
other evidence?
Eyewitness
testimony. Saying a whole bunch of other evidence is, you would get just as mad if a flat earther said, oh, I have a whole bunch of measurements and a whole bunch of evidence. You would say, let's see them. Give me specifics. So don't just appeal to some, to the whole, don't appeal to the same premise that we're objecting to.
Eyewitness testimony from people that have gone up to space and said, yes, it looks just like it does in these pictures and in this video, from multiple countries for the last 70 years. Not one whistleblower, not one death.
No, we do have other testimonies of people sending up balloons and seeing it flat. And there's it's like a total of, what is it at this point? Like, is it 50, 40? No. How many astronauts are there? If you don't include Space Blue, where they just go up and float around.
Even Dwayne Kellum and Rob Skiba's pictures and video that they took, right? The pictures that they took shows curvature, right? They used the rectilinear. They went out of their way to use the rectilinear.
I'm sure it does. Sure. I mean, honestly, I've looked at a lot of pictures and footage.
Not accepting it, right? The only thing that ever shows it flat that flat earthers love to do is when they crop an image with a where they have a wide angle lens that has distortion, and then they wait as it bounces around to find the spot in the frame where it flattens out the horizon. But then ignore the pictures when the curvature passes through the center of the lens, which would show the true shape of the horizon. But they ignore
it's basic
that
optics, dude. It's basic optics.
Problem with that.
What do you mean?
These wide angle lenses, even if it's not a wide angle lens, every single piece of optics is going to impose a perspective limit. There's always going to be curvature inherent in every lens, every photo. Even a rectilinear lens cannot take an infinitely straight line shot across an infinite distance. It's still going to have divergence or convergence, and it's still going to have a resolution point. There's no getting around that.
Well, we're moving. I don't want to get into an argument about lenses. We're going back to the evidence, right?
Well,
So
you brought lenses up. You brought up lenses as part of your evidence. You're just starting to gish gallop now.
No, I'm not gish galloping. I feel like you guys are trying to change the subject, right?
You changed the subject. You brought up the cameras.
I said we have pictures and video, and then you got into it and
Which
talking
is
about
taken
how
with what?
we've got
What do you use to take a video? What kind of device takes a video?
Anyway, you guys have not disproven that the thousands of people that have gone up to space, or the 1,000+ people that have gone up to space, that all their testimony is bullshit in that they're all lying, right?
No, and only 24 people. Only 24 people have been allegedly far away enough to see the entirety.
Thank you.
Oh, but they can easily, but they can still see that they can't see the entirety of it when they go into low Earth orbit. But they can definitely see that the Earth's horizon is curved by quite a bit.
How many people have gone up to low Earth orbit, Jake? Number, please. There's got to be a number easily accessible. How many?
The most recent number I'm gonna guess is it's somewhere around, I believe, around 1,000.
From thousands.
And you have testimony. You have testimony from all 1,000 of them saying they saw a globe.
Stupid.
Why is it stupid?
We definitely don't have testimony of people saying that the Earth looks flat from space.
Oh, but we also don't have what I just asked you for, which was all. You just said it was thousands of people, and then apparently we don't actually have the testimony that you said we had, do we?
No one's ever said it's flat.
Well, the other problem is that none of these people said that. Hey, I don't get to see. We're not going around the whole Earth every 90 minutes weightless, which would be impossible on a flat Earth.
Even if one person did say it's flat, that's not proof that it's flat. And even if 1,000 people said that it's curving, that's not proof that it's curving. Do you agree that?
Do I agree to what? I'm sorry.
I said that even if one person said it's flat, or even if 1,000 people said it's a globe, you agree that that's not proof that that's the case?
I don't think that would be proof, but I will make a concession here. If you were to go around to all 1,000 of those people and get them to all testify under some kind of legal, under oath, you got them all to testify under oath that they saw curvature and that there was no curvature in the windows of the aircraft they were on, and they all were able to sign that under oath, I'd say that's pretty compelling. I would definitely say that.
This live stream video right now.
Do you find
That's
a
completely different concept. Do you not understand the difference between testimony and fudged video or suspect video? If I find video footage suspect, why would you appeal to more video footage?
Everything you see is suspect. You don't believe anything you see.
Okay, well that's a cool statement, but can you answer my question?
No, Robert won't do that. Honestly, good
faith. You can watch live right now. It's a live stream of the ISS.
So now we're going back to optics after I was just accused of switching the subject to optics because someone else brought up cameras earlier. That's kind of messed up.
Well, we just wanted to talk about.
You could ask those 700 astronauts if they experience weightlessness, and I think that would be a better measure than asking what they saw.
No, see, I disagree because there are a bunch of ways that we can have weightlessness with an airplane or with crafts. That's not a measure to prove anything. And even if you had weightlessness at a super high altitude, there's no reason not to believe that there could be a change in weight at high altitude.
Oh my God!
So you can only have weightlessness in those airplanes for like 90 seconds or 120 seconds.
It's less than that. It's like less than that. I think it's like 40 seconds.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like I'm just saying, it's not. These are not things that are making any sort of definitive or conclusive statements of anything about the shape of the Earth. Like I said, maybe if you had sworn testimony where they were answering very specific questions, the very specific questions I laid out about curved windows and about did you see curvature while you were up in space, Mr. JetBlue or whatever. Did you see it? And they all said, yeah, it's a globe. I definitely saw a globe, and it wasn't even a curved window. And I would be a little bit more intrigued. If they were all celebrities, I might be a little bit suspect still, because that is a little weird. But yeah, I would call that compelling.
The reason I bring up weightlessness is, to my knowledge, Flat Earth has no account for how somebody could experience more than 10 minutes of weightlessness on a flat Earth. And there's hundreds of people who have experienced weightlessness for longer than 10 minutes.
That's interesting. I mean, there's two things to that. There's two aspects of that, in which one would be, like I said already, like I have no reason. I don't know what happens when you go to a super high altitude. I have no reason not to believe that there could be a change in your gravity potential at that point, or the downward current pulling you down at that point. I have no idea. But also, I don't know anything about every aircraft on Earth, and neither do you. All the technology that you know about is decades behind what is actually used at the upper echelons of military defense departments.
How on earth do you know that?
How on earth do I know that governments around the world have technology that they don't tell us about? How do I know that?
So they haven't told you about something, but you know it exists. That's smart.
But here's the thing.
Okay, you're right. I should definitely just, even though there's been hundreds and hundreds of outed, U.S. government projects and intelligence projects all around the world that have been done behind our back, and they come out 50 years later, over and over and over again. It's to a point where it's a defined pattern. For some reason, you want me to just stop believing that, just to believe that they've stopped having secret technology in the U.S. government? That's outrageous. Actually, you know what? That's silly, because the U.S. government will tell you outright that they have secret technology that you're not allowed to know about.
Right, but if
you are imagining technologies which comport to your narrative.
Right. Yeah, if the only explanation that Flat Earth has for people experiencing more than 10 minutes of weightlessness at a time is, there might be secret government airplanes, then I'm not going to buy it, with respect.
Well, first of all, I'm not even 100%. I think you're actually wrong about that fact. Who's interrupting?
It's not an explanation machine.
Learn orbital mechanics.
It's a measurement
of hairspray.
My one response is Flat Earth is not an explanation machine or a person.
Yeah, that's very clear.
The point is, though, because you were saying that it didn't sound like it was clear to you when you're saying Flat Earth doesn't explain this and that. The bottom line, Flat Earth is a measurement. There's nothing to explain that.
It's a wrong measurement.
Where did I put it?
Is the 10-minute stat even accurate? I feel like that's not even accurate.
It was an exaggeration. I'm saying if there's more than 10 minutes of weightlessness, then that's hard to explain.
Without hairspray?
Oh, okay. So it's just a hypothetical. Well, I mean, it would be hard to explain, just like I find a lot of things in the sky hard to explain. But I would defer back to my original statement that without having concrete, things that I can test with independent and dependent variables with regards to the sky, like, why would I be making any sort of objective assertions about that? That's just illogical.
There's hundreds of people who report that they have experienced weightlessness for hours at a time.
There's 10 people in the ISS right now orbiting the Earth.
What about independent and dependent variables?
I was saying until I can actually make experiments in the sky with independent and dependent variables, then why would I be using those to make any sort of objective assertions about the ground beneath my feet, or about anything, really?
I just want to make a slight correction to what was said before. We went from thousands of people in low Earth orbit to 1,000. 690 people have been to low Earth orbit, allegedly. And then the people that went beyond, there's only 24. Only 24
Thank
people
you.
Thanks for correcting that. Yeah, that's
okay.
right.
So what?
Yeah.
So
I was just correcting.
I don't know. You guys were the.
I was just.
Well,
I'm getting
Matthew brought the point
clarity to the claim that was made, Robert. So it went from
Yes, thank
1,000
you.
to 1,000 to 690.
Does it?
Right,
Okay, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean it didn't happen.
I'm not making a claim as to whether or not it happened.
You said
I'm just
allegedly.
giving accurate.
You said allegedly.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah, I don't need to grant whether or not it happened. I'm saying that is the claim. Do I need to say that it happened or it didn't happen? Allegedly
Do you
means
believe that it
I'm not.
happened?
I'm saying I don't claim whether or not it did happen.
Well,
That
why
is
can't you
the
make a claim,
claim.
Galatrax?
Why can't? Because I don't
Take a
need
position.
to.
Take a position. Be a man.
You don't have a position,
Take a
Robert. You just
position.
have what Google tells you.
Is that how you do logic and science? You just pick a position?
I love you too. I'm about to come down there.
I don't pick any positions. My position is that there's 10 people in
No,
the
you're trying to
ISS
corner him into picking a position about a topic that's about cosmology and we're trying to apply logic. We're trying to apply logic to the topic of cosmology, and you're trying to corner him into picking a position. It's silly.
Robert is definitely silly.
I'd simply like to know if he believes people have ever been to space. What's wrong with that question?
What's the
Robert,
record
do you
for
believe? Let me ask you something, Robert. Do you believe that God is an evil God or a good God?
I don't want to talk about religion.
I know. Do you understand why I'm asking you that?
No.
Matthew, do you understand why I'm asking that question?
No, we're talking about people in space, and you brought up God. What? I don't understand.
Okay,
why
but
you're
if I
changing the
asked
topic.
you, do you believe that God is an evil God or a good God? You understand that that question presupposes that there is a God. You understand that?
Yeah, sure.
What does that have to do with space?
Okay, so when Robert says you have to make a claim, there is a thing
No, I
called a
didn't say
false
that.
dichotomy. There is a thing called a false dichotomy that people do use in debates where they try to force someone into a position where
That's not
there
what I did.
isn't necessarily two options. So if you
There
want to
is
try
two
to
options
force
in this
me
case.
into one of two options, you would have to first prove that there is only two options, and you have not yet met that precondition.
Yeah, here are the two options. Have 600 plus people been to space, or is that false? It's a true or false statement. Do you believe that 600 people have been to space? Yes or no? No false dichotomy.
No, you're okay. So Matthew, you're saying that either they have been to space or they haven't, and I have to choose between them. There is a third
No.
option, which is that I don't
No, that's not
know,
what I said.
which is where the third option is that I don't know, which is where I would say allegedly have been, because I can't confirm or deny that. So allegedly is the correct nomenclature. Now you guys understand. You're welcome.
Okay, yeah, I'll take that. I mean, if I ask a yes or no question, a possible answer is I don't know. So fair enough.
Either they
Do you
have and I
believe-
can't confirm it, or they haven't and I can't confirm it. So I don't know is the proper way to
Do you
write
have an
it, right?
opinion? Do you have an opinion?
The record for days in space is
Do you have an
660.
opinion? Do you have an opinion?
Is it relevant to the debate, Robert?
No, it's not. I just like to know your personal opinion.
Okay, so if it's not relevant to the debate, I'm not interested.
Why?
I'm interested in the arguments presented, the logic that backs them, and the foundation of that logic. I have no interest in my personal credentials, my personal beliefs, my ethos.
I am
I don't
interested
care
in your
about
personal
that.
belief. I'm interested to know. Curiosity. What is your opinion?
No, thank you.
That's a joke.
God bless you, Robert.
What's wrong with that? I mean, if you ask somebody's opinion and they decline to answer, that's okay.
Yeah, Robert's not really good faith, Matthew.
Yeah, I don't think he's asking in good faith. Matthew, if you asked me,
good faith.
I would answer every question you ask me, Matthew. But in this context, Robert is just asking so he can make more ad hominem attacks,
Wrong.
more just personal
Not
statements.
true. Not
What's
true.
your reason for answering? They're asking them.
Matthew, he's never made a single argument against any of my arguments. He's never made a claim against my arguments. All he does is attack my character. So I have no reason to give him information about my character, right?
That's wrong.
It'd be absurd for me to do that.
That's not true.
Okay, can you name one argument I've made, Robert?
Galatrax, the point I'm trying to make, and maybe you're misinterpreting what I'm saying. If I could just make my point quickly, but you don't want to listen.
I asked you a very simple question. Can you name one argument that I've made, Robert? Please.
I'm going to make my point. I'm answering your question. Okay? You're saying that you want to debate things of what reasons for this and that, but it would be nice to know what your thoughts are on the matter, so we could see
dodging the question.
Got it. So the answer is no. You cannot name one argument that I made.
You really can't name one argument? Hold on, Robert.
He doesn't understand logic or arguments, debates. He thinks that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, it's not true. It's just if he doesn't make an argument because he doesn't take a position.
Robert, I want you to
You can
chat
make an
GPT logical premises, all right? Use chat GPT for some actual usefulness, all right?
I'm not using ChatGPT for anything. I'm just telling you.
Okay.
If you're not taking a position, how can you have a debate?
Robert, I make lots of arguments. Just because you don't remember them, that doesn't mean I don't make arguments.
Refresh
I make
my
lots of
memory.
arguments.
Refresh my memory.
Okay, so the question on the table was, can you name an argument I've made? And your response was, oh,
No.
give me an argument. Give me one.
I can't remember. I can't remember. No.
It's because you don't listen, dude. That's why you can't remember.
No, I
You're not here to
That's why
listen.
he doesn't want to give you his opinion.
We just gave you a very cut and clear,
and not based off of my arguments. That's why you can't remember.
right.
You could ask
we
me
gave
what
him a
I
very
believe.
cut and clear argument. We gave you we've given you two very clear chances now to demonstrate you've been listening. I asked you earlier if you could articulate my position, and you refused to do it then. And then now Galactrex asked you if you could even give us one of his arguments, and you said no. Or you refused to even answer.
Toby, you never asked me a question at all, so how could I answer your question?
Well,
You're right. Actually, I think you were just interrupting earlier, weren't you?
Referring to me. Robert, I've asked you 3 times. I'll ask you a 4th. Can you name one argument that I've made?
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right, there. That's simple.
That's why I don't answer his questions about my personal.
But that's got nothing to do with it.
It has everything to do with why I don't answer your questions about.
He's not going to satisfy your curiosity because you don't listen to him in the first place. That's the point, Robert. Drop it.
I do listen to him.
Oh my god, dude.
That's why I asked him what his position was about how many people went to space.
He's made it clear he doesn't want to tell you his position on this, and he doesn't want to talk to you about his personal position on this. And you keep asking him for it over and over and over again in chat and in voice, to the point where I would say that you're kind of starting to, harass the dude.
Why do these homosexual epithets have to come in?
Well, Robert, it's called sea lining. Sea lining is a form of online harassment where a user.
You guys use.
Sea lining is a form of online harassment where a user persistently pesters another with demand. Can I finish, please? It's a form of online harassment where a user persistently pesters another with demands for evidence or explanations, often while feigning ignorance and maintaining a polite facade.
That's what you do.
You
just described yourself.
Oh, I'm the furthest thing from polite, my brother. I don't think I've been polite to anybody. I don't think I'm polite to even my friends. I think I call my friends retarded more often than I call anyone else retarded.
If you come in here and you're going to argue different things, it'd be nice to know what your position is on the matter.
I'd say my arguments and my opinions and my personal beliefs are different.
Well, I'm just saying, why can't you just tell me what your personal belief is? I don't understand what.
He already told you he doesn't want to. Drop it, bud.
Toby, I'm not talking to you, dude. You're
no one wants to listen to you ask him the same question over and over and over again. We're all here listening to you harass the dude.
Do you know what no means? Hold on, Robert. Do you know what no means?
Who's asking me that? Who's asking me that?
Me, Beasticles, on the bottom. The one who's been talking to you and the one who basically exposed you when you were like, oh my god, there's a Nazi symbol. You guys are fucking Nazis.
There's a certified Holocaust denier on this site. His name's QOP. And you guys let him sit here and deny the Holocaust. It's disgusting.
Oh my god.
And you're probably a Holocaust denier too.
There's been a couple of them.
You're posting.
Now we see why he wants to know your position on you, because he's going to
we just slander each other. This is exactly what we're trying to avoid. We're not doing personal attacks. Let's make arguments, claims, justified arguments, and then we can address the justified arguments. We're not going to go around calling people Holocaust deniers and all these other things. If you're going to make a claim, substantiate it with your personal foundational backing.
They said it on the server. What more proof do I need?
It's not what we're talking about.
Gio was there, bro, and he actually showed you. Yeah, he's just someone who basically is new to the conversation.
Not the swastika.
And he thinks he's got an upper hand on people who believe the earth is flat. Oh, you guys are fucking idiots. You guys are disgusting.
You're taking the ride, Peter. This guy is trying to take us off the rails with someone who isn't even here, and then trying to
keep him muted then.
Holocaust denier later.
Not the swastika.
Robert, who here does what you're saying right now apply to, if anyone?
I'm just saying that you guys are saying these things.
No,
and you
answer the question. If you don't answer the question, I'm going to put you on server mute and you're just going to be left there. Who here does the thing you're saying apply to? If no one, stop saying it.
It applies to QOP.
He's not in here. Holy shit.
Okay, well, when he comes, you can ask him.
Okay, so please stop stereotyping
I
the
won't say it
review for
anymore.
the Holocaust scenario. We're going to talk about the
How could I be a
arguments,
Holocaust
claims
denier? I'm
on the
Jewish.
table.
I have family that died in the Holocaust. Why would I be a denier?
All right.
Stupid.
Look, I'm sorry that your family died in the Holocaust, but I can't
is
allow you to
right.
do
Like,
live
what's
stream.
going
We're trying to
on?
have a discussion here, man.
Okay, let's get back to the topic. I believe it was substantiating whether 600 plus more people have left low Earth orbit or something of that nature.
Well, I was adding that context in because we were talking to Pazza about it. He said that, or no, it wasn't Pazza. It was
No, it was Matthew who basically said that the flat Earth has a hard time explaining why people are weightless for more than 10 minutes.
Right.
Then added on that that's not the correct number or the amount of time, and that we would have to actually look up the specifics on that.
Yeah,
most people going quote unquote. Most of the people going to quote unquote space right now are like Katy Perry, right? Where you do this parabolic flight. It's less than 10 minutes from liftoff to touchdown.
Right, and that's why I said more than 10 minutes. So I mean, some people who have experienced orbital flight, which the number is. Somebody was guessing 1,000 or maybe 700, but somebody looked it up and it was
660.
660. So 660 people have experienced orbital flight, which means going at least one orbit, and that's 90 minutes. So there are hundreds of people who claim to have experienced weightlessness for more than 90 minutes.
Rough on the body. And the record is 600.
Allegedly.
What about the people on the ISS?
What'd you say, Claw?
What about the people on the ISS?
They also claim to experience. Yes, they also claim to experience weightlessness.
Yeah, is that implausible if the Earth is flat?
Yes.
Can you explain to me why?
Because orbits don't exist on a flat Earth.
Wait, low Earth orbit.
And there's no good explanation. There's no explanation on the flat Earth side for how that could happen.
Have you seen?
Sure, there is.
Like levitating magnetic things following a track, or
yeah, but that would make something like metal things stay up in the sky, but not the human body. The human body would experience the weight. That's why they call it weightlessness. So you experience weight no matter where you are, unless you're in free fall.
Well, hey, according to Wikipedia, the pull of gravity in low Earth orbit is only slightly less than that on the Earth's surface.
That's nothing to do with the. That's nothing to do though with orbit.
The discussion was about people that had gone to low Earth orbit and experienced weightlessness. I thought
they're in orbit.
Yes.
Orbit. Yeah.
Wait. Let's get this clear. Is the premise that they're experiencing weightlessness, or that they want in a circle?
Both.
They're experiencing
weightlessness, even though they're going in a circle. They're in free fall, even though they're subject to gravity.
But in low Earth orbit, that's not what's occurring.
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is.
I just read you the fact that it's not actually weightlessness.
Gravity is causing them to be in free fall. You understand that, right?
Weightlessness is different than no gravity.
The technical term is
only slightly less than on Earth's surface. Perfectly explainable with an etheric model.
You need gravity for the orbit in the first place.
You have no evidence of ether.
There is evidence of a greater etheric wind effect at altitude than not at altitude.
It could get colder, denser.
What's that?
Someone echoing?
I think so.
I hear a bit of echo. I was waiting for Red to come in between you. Might be a bit of a delay.
I mean, this is an important distinction to make. Like, we were talking about weightlessness, and then all of a sudden now we're talking about low Earth orbit we're not talking about weightlessness anymore. Like, that's a big distinction to make.
Yes,
we are. They're in the same
I literally just read to you that it's not weightlessness.
No,
it is slightly less than on Earth's surface. Slightly less.
You still need the gravity. You're in free fall. You're in free fall.
It's all under the same.
What are you talking about? You're in free fall. How are you substantiating that?
Toby, all right. Do you know how orbit works? Like, do you understand the globe.
Yes, I
Explanation
understand
for
the
how
heliocentric model. Yes, I understand how an orbit works and what a moon is and what a satellite is. Yes.
Okay, so you know how
I'm trying to find how this has anything to do with the 660 people that went to low Earth orbit and how that would be any proof of a globe.
Okay, let me try and explain. So, when you bungee jump, you experience a few seconds of weightlessness. Same if you jump out of a plane. Still, you're subject to gravity on the globe Earth model, even though you don't feel it because you're in free fall. So, free fall causes weightlessness, and in the standard mainstream model, globe Earth model, orbit is basically free fall, and so you don't experience weight and its weightlessness, even though it's subject to 90% of the gravity as the surface.
Yeah, like in the ISS.
You just gave me a big explanation, but you didn't actually give me what I asked for, which is how this is going to somehow corroborate the experience of these astronauts. There's plenty of ways that this could be occurring, without having honestly, just can't you take a step back and just look at the premise that you're laying out for me about a free fall orbit? It's logical for me to be skeptical of that. This is the proper approach to these sorts of things. We want to have proof of these things. We want to understand them properly, not commit to them religiously.
No, you're right. So I admit I was just explaining it. But to answer your specific question is how does that show that the Earth is a globe? The answer is that the globe Earth has an explanation for weightlessness, which is what I said, which is, it's because they're in free fall around the Earth in orbit. And so that's the globe Earth explanation for weightlessness. Now my question is, what is the flat Earth explanation for weightlessness, other than magical government planes that exist that are decades beyond what I understand?
I mean, Matthew. Yeah, I mean, I could take 100 guesses at it, right? Like I could come up with 100 million theories. I could try and give you, my best guess would be something with an etheric wind and with a charge potential that decreases as you increase in altitude, so you're being pulled down less. You have less of a current pulling you down. Like I already mentioned, the etheric wind, the preferred directionality, the speed of light, the way in which light moves changes when you go higher in altitude, which seems to indicate within my etheric framework a movement of the background medium. So if you have a movement of the background medium, it's perfectly logical that you would have movement of a craft at a high altitude.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point, Toby. It's almost like
decent explanation.
Yeah, all we need now is evidence for either.
The problem is you guys dismiss any other plausible claims, right? Like it could be like the higher you go up, the more electrostatically charged you become, right? So the more electrostatically charged you become, the higher you go, you could experience things like, why does my hair tend to stand up when I have this electrostatic charge put into me? Why is that negating gravity? Why is my hair becoming anti-gravity? And if you have something similar that takes place the higher you get or the further you go from the surface, why is that like there's no explanation, right? There's a million different things that could be taking place. The problem is you've been spoon-fed one specific explanation and you accept it without questioning.
It's not we accepted that question. It's just that I for one have never heard a technical, logical, scientific reason why it's not possible to achieve orbit, to get to orbit, and to maintain orbit. No one has ever given me a scientific reason why it's not possible.
I got one for you. Because there's no graviton.
The graviton's nothing to do with whether it's
it is. I mean, without gravitons, your model falls apart. So
no,
there's one right there.
Well, that's great, but no, it doesn't.
Okay, so, well, I mean, I gave you what you asked for.
It's a physical. That wasn't what I asked for. I asked for scientific explanation for.
That's what I'm saying. Within your scientific framework, you should have a hypothesis of a graviton. And when your hypothesis is not actually found, when you test for your hypothesis and there is no graviton, that should be a disproof of your model.
No, it isn't, because you're just saying dark matter, graviton, you're just bringing up unrelated terms and unrelated ideas.
No, it's not dogmatic. It's how gravity works. It's how gravitation works.
Don't have to know how gravity works. I don't have to know how gravity works. Well, then
I don't have to know how the map of the Earth.
If you don't need to know how gravity works and you're just believing that it's true,
I don't have
and it's
to.
just a faith-based
I experience
belief.
it every day.
Yeah, everybody told me that the reason my feet are on the ground is because of something called gravity, but we don't need to explain it. We just need to accept it. And no matter what they tell you, you're just going to go ahead and believe it, right? And when the theories that they have been disproven over and over again, even when you're top level scientists, even your top level science communicators, when asked what is gravity, they go, "What is gravity? We don't know." Right?
Yes, we do. It's
so,
mass
so
attracting
you
mass.
don't have an explanation.
Yes, we do. Mass attracting
You
mass.
literally don't. We just talked about the
Literally
graviton.
just did. Mass attracts mass. That's what it appears. That's what appears to happen. So that's the current one.
So that's proof of the etheric framework.
There's nothing to do with the etheric anything. Those are just words. But we have two bodies. We have two bodies.
I mean, I can make up a model where you're just affirming my model, just like you can make up a model where you can take, if you make an observation and then build a model that fits within your observation, you don't make your model before you make or after you make your observation.
Okay.
That's why I brought up the graviton example, because it was an experiment that proved that there's no mechanism for gravitation, which makes gravitation illogical.
Doesn't matter about gravitation. It's a
the
question.
You brought up gravitation. That was your premise.
The question was, you brought up gravitation. Mass appears to attract mass. Now, what is the scientific reason? What is the scientific reason? What is the scientific explanation that refutes the concept and the idea that one can achieve low Earth orbit?
You want me to repeat what I laid out earlier and ignore our questions?
Well, he's just claiming like mass appears to attract mass. Okay, that's cool. That's not an explanation. Just because you have an observation, you have zero explanation. But then you want to go off into this fairy tale land where it's like, well, since we know X, Y, and Z, but what is your explanation for the mechanism of mass attracting mass? What inherently in mass attracts other mass?
The problem you have is you have contradictory arguments.
I don't have a problem.
Because
you have the problem.
You have a big problem. And one of the big problems you have is you have contradictory arguments. So on the one hand, you say that science says that it knows everything. But when science says it doesn't know, you also say that that's a problem. Yes,
Nobody
they have.
said that.
Yes,
no one said that. That's the
yes, they have. If science knows everything,
what straw man are you trying to build? Keep
who said
fighting
that?
your win.
Wait, who said that is what I would like to know. Why don't you point out who said that and say what part of the conversation it occurred in?
Now, so when I ask a question about physically achieving low Earth orbit, I ask for a scientific explanation that you can give me, and there isn't one. Because there is
you say mass attracts mass, which has not been proven to be the case, right? It appears that is the thing.
And that's not even a good case for orbits. Mass attracting mass is not even a good case for orbits.
You can't explain it. That's the problem. No,
you're right. You're right. They cannot explain the elliptical orbits of satellites. They don't even match your globe model.
Your problem is you can't model anything and you can't explain anything. That's the big problem. So
I gave you an explanation, and then I told you how your explanation didn't even, it failed a basic experiment. The hypothesis was proven null. There's no gravitons. Why are you arguing for gravitation? Mass attracting mass, I can give you a framework that's post hoc explaining it as well, but until you can give me an independent variable and a dependent variable and demonstrate a mechanism.
Thank you, Oakley. When did I mention gravitation? Thanks, Toby. You mentioned gravitation. I asked you.
So what is mass?
Scientific reason why it's not possible to achieve low Earth orbit.
Hold on, buddy. Why did you mention mass attracting mass if you're not talking about gravitation?
Because you brought it up.
No, you're talking about gravitation.
Yes,
and you said
you asked the question. And then you asked the question about gravitation, and then when I reply, then you say that I brought up gravitation. You need to work on your argumentation, my man. Now, can I have an explanation for why it's not possible to achieve low Earth orbit?
Because you have no actual explanation. You're just saying mass appears to attract mass. You're just saying that mass appears to attract mass. So what is the causal mechanism for mass attracting mass?
The problem you have, my friend, is that you can't explain why you can't get into low Earth orbit. You just say, no, it's not possible. They're all lying NASA shills.
We gave you plausible explanations.
No, you didn't.
You
just because you just said words salad.
I'll poo-poo your
etheric.
I gave you an explanation.
Red Cloud, you've been given multiple explanations, and you just don't accept it. That's fine.
No.
But you've been given an explanation.
The higher you get, the more scientific. Yeah, the higher you get, the more electrostatic charge that you have. The more electrostatic charge that you have, the more it appears as though you are anti-gravitic. In the same way that when you induce a current within a human being on the surface, it appears as though the hair on your body will levitate, right? It moves upwards. So as you get further away from the surface, you increase your electrostatic charge, which gives you this appearance as though you have weightlessness. Prove me wrong.
Where are you getting that from?
Prove me wrong.
Did you just cook that up just now?
Prove me wrong.
Don't need to. You just said words.
And can you prove that is an incorrect statement?
I don't need to. You just said some words. I'm after.
Gosh. Okay. Then we will no longer have a conversation with you if your rebuttal is that you just said some words. So your explanation of fuck all is you just said some words. That's our rebuttal to everything that you're going to say henceforth. You just said some words.
Perfect. That's perfect. So
and you're acting as though I need to work on my argument.
Yes, you really do.
When your rebuttal is you just said words.
Yes.
You just said words.
Yes.
That's your rebuttal, and you're acting like I need to work on my argumentation.
That's my rebuttal.
That's
so.
Right.
So you don't
We're
understand.
Not going to go anywhere then with this conversation.
The original question. The original question. The original question was, what is the reason why we think that ISS astronauts are in low Earth orbit? And the reason I gave is because when I asked for someone to give me a scientific reason why that's not possible, I get crickets, like I just did. That is why I believe that it is not reasonable to say that it's not possible to retrieve low Earth orbit. That's all.
You just said words. Yeah.
Yes, I did.
You just said words, and you just said words. So yeah, you're wrong.
Yes. Do you have anything more?
Because we gave you multiple rebuttals to that, and your response is you just said words.
Yes. Etheric wind, electrostatics.
So there's going to be no fruit going forward from this conversation, Red Cloud.
Not from flat Earth. That's true.
All right. Well, then let's just
because you don't have the ability to. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have the ability to actually take in information, disseminate whether or not it's plausible, and then have a rebuttal to that. His rebuttal is you just said words because he doesn't have the ability to understand those words and formulate a proper rebuttal, and then he'll say that we don't know how to, we need to work on our argumentation.
Yes, you're now reiterating.
Okay, well, this is going nowhere, Red Cloud. Can we move on?
What's your causal mechanism in mass attracting mass? What's your causal mechanism?
Can we move on to that question?
Mass attracting mass. You need science for that.
Let's have someone more technical. Maybe.
Well, no, it's a good starting point. Mass attracting mass is a claim, and it's a popular claim.
It's the claim, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, give us some science for the explanation of the causal mechanism.
It's the claim.
We'll wait. We'll wait.
Go ahead. For what? What are you waiting for?
You to explain the causal mechanism of your claim that mass attracts mass. So what inherently within mass causes mass to attract to other mass?
That's a very good question. Do you know?
Crickets.
Yep.
Crickets.
Do you know?
You don't know. Exactly.
But mass appears to attract mass.
It's your claim. Substantiate it.
Mass appears to attract mass. We can see the moon orbiting the Earth. There's our evidence. We can drop things.
What is your causal mechanism? If you don't understand the causal mechanism of why it appears to do that, and when somebody else explains why it appears to do that, and you say you're just saying words, then you don't have the intellectual high ground to stand on and say, I'm just going to blanket say mass attracts mass. That's why there's some sort of orbit taking place. Because you don't understand the causal mechanism, but when somebody gives you an explanation, and actually multiple people have given you plausible explanations as to why that's taking place, and you just poo-poo that, and when we ask, okay, then you explain why it's taking place, and you say, that's a good question. You think you have the intellectual high ground to stand on in this argument?
Yeah. Here, real quick, Red Cloud, just to substantiate or to expound upon that, right? You just said, yeah, that's a good question, meaning that you don't know the causal mechanism for mass attracting mass, meaning that there is a potential for another explanation of mass attracting mass other than gravity, and you should have the good faith to grant that to us when we give you an alternative explanation.
Cavendish.
Right, Red Cloud? If we're going to be in good faith, if you don't have a causal explanation for why mass attracts mass, then you should have, the grace to give us room to basically expound upon why mass attracts mass. Okay? Just to be fair. Would you agree with that?
Cavendish.
Seems fair, right?
Cavendish is performed daily in colleges.
You gonna answer me, Red Cloud? Come on.
I'm
being very cordial.
Really, you are very, very, very cordial. I appreciate it. Could I be really rude and ask you to repeat the question? I'm really sorry.
Sure. No, that's fine. All right. So when we asked you about the causal mechanism for why mass attracts mass, and you said that is a good question, which means you don't have an explanation as to why mass attracts mass, which means you should have the grace to allow other explanations to come forth and be open to it. Right? That would be fair. If you don't have a causal explanation, right, then there's a potential for any other causal explanation, and we can expand upon those potential explanations.
I mean,
right?
If you've got one that's as well fleshed out as mass attracting mass,
so that's your qualifier. It has to be as well fleshed out, even though you don't have
that's one of the
qualifiers. Explanation.
Yeah.
All right. But you don't even understand the causal explanation for it, though. You don't have it, though. Like that, if it's not, if you don't even know what the cause is, then you don't have a fleshed out explanation either.
What we have.
Can I just also point out that that's such a fallacious way to look at things. Like if you're following a line of logic, it's something, if something defies logic and you have a paradox, then you should move on to another premise. You should disregard that premise, no matter how fleshed out it is. You could flesh it out for decades. Actually, look at The Hobbit. Look at The Lord of the Rings. Look at how fleshed out that universe is. Does that make it real? No, that's not logical.
Yeah, you're right, Toby. That is called fallacy of explanation.
Fallacy of explanation, that's a good one.
Fallacy of explanation generally refers to the error of assuming that because an explanation is offered, it must be correct to the best explanation.
Yeah, that's not a fallacy. That's what you're
100% a fallacy. I just
that's exactly what he just read, though.
That is what you're up against.
So you're comfortable with that?
I mean,
you understand that then Toby is correct, and
I don't think he understands the premise, to be honest.
Yeah, I do understand the premise. Don't insult me. I understand the premise. Thank you.
I say
so then he just read a fallacious definition, bro. He read a specific fallacious definition, right? The fallacy. What is it called? The fallacy of explanation, or
no?
What is it,
Elbow? Here's the other thing: is I don't.
Can you post
fallacy of explanation.
I don't usually.
Can I just say one thing? Just because Red Cloud doesn't understand and can explain it, and I can't either. Newton's law of universal gravitation doesn't mean the whole concept is void. It's a very complex thing.
Okay, now you're appealing to complexity.
Gravitation is very similar to Coulomb's law, which deals with the attraction between positive and negative charge. And we're putting forth that what you're seeing is a difference between charge potential, right? So when we claim that there is a charge potential difference, that there is an etheric wind, all of these things, that is much more closely related to something that has been fleshed out through Coulomb's law. I'm sure you know Coulomb's law, new guy to the fucking room. I'm sure you understand Coulomb's law and how that applies, right? Can you explain to me Coulomb's law?
I don't even know what that is, but I'll just
Yeah, I didn't expect that you would. So when you talk about universal law of gravitation, it's just incoherent dielectric acceleration towards the null pressure point.
Excuse me, that's not what I said. That just I can't elaborate what it means or explain it. It doesn't exist. But I'd like to comment on the charge.
We understand the mathematics. We are putting forth an explanation for the mathematics that is different than what you're claiming. And our explanation for the mathematics is way more closely tied to reality than your mass just attracts mass because of reasons.
I'd like to comment on that, if I may. So you're saying that there's different electronic charges that make that's what you're saying? Charging charges or something like that? Electronic charges?
Do you know what charge is?
He's talking about the two different charged particles attracting and repelling each other.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand. So if that's the case, aren't there? Why wouldn't things be repelled from the Earth and fly up?
Things do when you get further away.
What?
We just discussed that like 10, 20 minutes ago.
Weightlessness.
90%.
Hello? Are you not paying attention? Are you in the same room?
On the ground.
It's a parallel universe here.
There has to be a significant differential in the charge potential in order for that to take place. Like you can replicate this. You can take two different Gaussian surfaces and you can change the charge potential between those two surfaces, and you can levitate things. You can make things lift up from the ground and go to the other Gaussian surface.
I mean, there's diamagnetic, ferromagnetic. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Can you respond to what I just said? We understand that everything is inherently electrostatic, diamagnetic. We know that. So that the reactions between all of these things, right? In order to lift something like myself off of the ground, what do you think the differential in charge would need to be in order for that to take place?
Well, I don't know, but what I'm saying is if that were the case, there would certainly be something that has a repulsive feature to it that would be flying off the surface of the Earth.
Why would something be repulsed from the surface of the Earth when the surface of the Earth is a conglomeration of many different magnetic moments? And when we experience that with a cluster of different magnets, we find that not only the north and the south pole of a magnet will be attracted to that mass. There is no repulsion that takes place. So it perfectly follows what we can experiment with, that there wouldn't be repulsion at the surface unless you had something above the surface that would cause such a differential in charge that it would allow for things to move upwards, which we can do with like a Van de Graaff generator.
But why does everything fall down then?
The question is how much energy is required to produce the effect of the Van de Graaff generator? And can you measure it?
That's the question.
Yeah, the answer is yeah. You could measure that. The Van de Graaff generator uses a lot of power. The energy required to produce the effect from the Van de Graaff generator, right? I mean, is that what's going on in the atmosphere? We're just subject to that constantly. We're unaware of it.
You realize the further you get away from the surface, the higher the charge is. Do you know that?
So the higher the charge is, which means what? So the gravity gets more, or the effect of what we would call gravity gets more intense as you go up.
Do you understand that the further you get away from the surface, the higher the charge potential gets?
In voltage, yes.
100 volts per meter.
I think it's just. I think this.
But that is not. That's not in power. That's not in power. That's just in volts. That's a potential.
That's an Eric Dubé meme.
It really is.
Up,
but do you understand that? Why does that take place? Hey, buddy. Within your model, why is that taking place?
Hold on, but 100 volts per meter is an Eric Dubé meme.
It's
a Feynman lecture, you dummy.
It's Feynman.
Eric Dubé has it all over his website.
You know who Richard Feynman is?
You know who Richard Feynman is?
Do you know who that guy is? Oh, no, you don't? You have to mute and look him up real quick? Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. Got you.
I'm not looking anything up. I don't even know care to know who he is.
You don't know who Richard Feynman is?
Yes, I know who Richard Feynman is. Don't be stupid.
No, not you, Red Cloud.
Scientifically provable.
Okay,
so
good.
just because Eric they said it doesn't mean that it's incorrect. It's scientifically provable. Do you disagree with that part of reality?
I agree with that.
I disagree.
You disagree.
It's
So
not
can you show me that doesn't take place?
in high schools across
non
the world.
sequitur. How does it? What does it mean anything for? What does that 100 volts per meter mean to you?
I'm not talking to you, Zanick. I'm talking to this guy. So, do you disagree that there's a higher charge potential as you increase your elevation from the surface?
This guy disagrees with Richard Feynman and modern meteorology.
Just agree with him.
What they're talking about is the fact that because you have this ionized plasma in the ionosphere and the surface of the Earth, you get interactions there where you're going to get a charge gradient, which creates this 100 volt per meter a voltage differential. But the actual charge density,
been measured numerous times with numerous devices.
Okay, don't interrupt me, please. The charge density, if you're talking about like coulombs per cubic meter, goes down substantially with elevation due to the reduction in particle density. So even though the voltage differential may be going
non
up,
sequitur,
the actual charge density is far lower as you get higher up.
It's totally applicable. It is not
it's already very small to begin with, but
it's totally.
There's nothing mystery about it. There's no
we're not
mystery about
talking
it.
about Coulomb's law. We're talking about the universal law of gravitation.
How it reflects.
And trying to
your understanding. Go ahead, sorry, Jake.
Sorry, go ahead, Zanick. No, go ahead.
Wow, I wish you guys would give the
give us a relationship between this 100 volts per meter and Coulomb's law and charge density, and also the power that is available to move something.
I never equated it with Coulomb's law. We're talking about they brought up the universal law of gravitation.
Well, Whitsitt has this whole thing about how there's no gravity; it's just electrostatics. But he still can't explain why, even if you take objects
what is gravity? Hold on, before you go forward, you said Whitsitt says there's no such thing as gravity. So if there is such a thing as gravity, what is gravity? What's the causal mechanism for gravitation?
Well, I mean, if you go by Einstein, it's the fact that there's a gradient in time that occurs between a mass and radiating out from a mass, right? There's a time gradient there that
a bending and warping of space-time. Now, if we change that name space-time to the fabric of the universe that we would call the ether, and the play between the magnetic and the dielectric fields, right? Which we know that everything is energetic in nature, and the more mass that you have put together, the more that's going to have an effect electronically or electrically, whatever you want to call it, in energy, right? And it's pulling on that energetic field. We call it an energetic field. Many people refer to it as the ether. Everybody else wants to call it the bending and warping of space-time, which what is space-time? If that's your claim, what is the nature of space-time?
And do you have empirical proof for your gravity, Jay? Because I got a couple questions for you.
I want him to explain the essence of space-time.
It's another red herring. Don't mention Einstein.
Cavendish experiments are done all over high schools, all over the place.
Yeah. So what is your explanation of the essence of space-time?
I mean, the thing is, you're going to find things in common with the electromagnetic field and the gravitational field, right? They both follow the inverse square law. They're both spherical fields that radiate outward, so they're going to have similarities in terms of the relationship between the force and the distance.
Yep.
But we know that they're inherently different. We know they're inherently different because we can change that electromagnetic force by just changing the permeativity of something, by changing the amount of charge differential, the charge differential. But guess what? When we put that object on a scale, no matter how much we play with it, with whether it's positively or negatively charged, or how much we increase it or change the electrical permeativity of it, it always weighs the same fucking amount.
Yeah, because the highest mass
energetically-
percentage is below us, right? And what is mass? Mass is comprised, anything that has mass is comprised of what? Could you boil it down to atomic mass? Does everything that has mass have an atomic mass?
Of course.
Right. And what do we boil atomic mass down to? It becomes energy, right? We go to
It only has
protons,
no, not right.
neutrons, and electrons.
Right?
Not right.
So
no, that's not right. That's not right.
We put it
has an
all. We
equivalence
put it all
factor.
down to. We put it all down to how much electric charge is contained within these things. Right. The more mass that it has, the more it's going to attract other things. And when we boil mass down, it boils down to. What are you saying, Zanick? That's not right. So what is atomic mass? What are protons, neutrons, and electrons? If not charge.
I mean,
So
Zanick,
you're
free
charge
to you're free to like discount the atomic model. That's fine.
I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, I think they're concepts.
No, so you said
Space-time is a concept.
Not based on their charge. The atomic the E equals mc squared is not the amount of charge an atom has. That is an equivalence principle. That's an equivalence factor. It's not the same. Mass is not the same as energy. There's an equivalence to mass. Mass has an equivalence factor to energy. Doesn't mean that they're the same.
Can you have a mass that doesn't have energy?
Hold on, these concepts though actually have like electrical terms, dude. He just said they're
Energy is a
called
capacity to
protons,
do work.
neutrons, and electrons.
It's literally right there.
Give me a mass that has no proton, neutron, or electron.
Mass does not equal energy. It has an equivalence factor.
Give me a mass
E equals mc squared. Why does the mass equal mc squared? And where does energy equals mc squared?
Wait.
So give me a mass that doesn't have energy inherent in its properties.
What do you mean inherent?
Inherent, meaning it is a conglomeration of energy condensed.
Here, I'm going to read this for you,
doesn't
Zanick.
have that.
Hold on, I'll just read this for Zanick.
So let me say, is a hydrogen atom have more energy than a oxygen atom?
Does an hydrogen atom have energy?
Not inherently, no. Not using your vernacular, no, it doesn't have inherently any energy.
So hydrogen atoms are not comprised of energetic properties?
What do you define energetic properties?
Is there a proton, neutron, or an electron involved in the equation?
How is it an equation? You define a hydrogen atom by a nucleus. A nucleus made up of protons. Hold on, I'm answering you. We have a hydrogen atom. It has an electron. But you didn't answer it. You just keep on answering questions with questions.
No, Zanick. Just simply answer the question, please. Please.
Inherently,
the hydrogen atom
does not have any
of protons, neutrons, and electrons.
Yes.
Okay, so it inherently, at its fundamental level, is comprised of energetic properties. Would you agree or disagree?
Define energetic properties.
Protons, neutrons, and electrons.
You're not talking physics. I don't know what you're asking because tell me how much energy. Okay,
you
energy
know
is measured in
what he's asking.
Hold on, no, I don't.
Come on.
Let me try to I listen to you. I listen to you. Hey, I listen to you. Let me speak.
Hey, don't get flustered.
Let me speak.
Don't get so flustered.
How much? Okay, energy is measured usually, for one example, in joules. How many joules is in an atom of hydrogen? You should be able to answer this. If you know what you're talking about, you should be able to tell me how many joules is in a atom of hydrogen.
Non sequitur in the conversation.
It's not you said it has energy. It's comprised. It's equal. Mass equals energy. You said. I said how much? Then you said is the hydrogen comprised of energetic particles? I said yes, and said are neutrons and protons and electrons. Yes, I said yes. Then I said, okay, if they are energetic particles, how does that equate to particles? Hold on. How does that equate? You tell me how much energy is in a atom of hydrogen right now. Tell me, please.
Why are you trying to equate what I'm saying to particles? Did I say anything about particles?
Oh my god.
Yes, you did. Actually.
Nope.
That was your
rewind the tape.
Statement. You said are protons, neutrons, and electrons, are they energetic particles? I said yes. Now I'm asking
He
you,
never said
how much
particles,
energy?
dude.
I never said
He
particles.
never said that.
I'm going to mute up, and I will not unmute until you go back through what I'm assuming this is still
Nah, you don't gotta
streamed
do
on
that.
YouTube, and
I'll let you recant
grab
it. What do you want to say?
grab where
say
I
it
said
again.
particles.
No,
Let's get
Zanick,
into
let's just, can we get back to the
Napalm.
actual
I
point
don't
that
need to get
Napalm's
pedantic.
trying
I
to
don't
make
need to
out?
get pedantic. I don't
It
need to
says
get
the
pedantic. My
charge of an
question is,
electron. It says the charge of an electron is approximately 1.602 times 10 to the negative 19 coulombs. Therefore, 1 EV is equal to 1.602 times 10 to the negative 19 joules. Is that what you're looking for?
that's the electron.
Yeah.
The hydrogen
Is
atom.
that one?
Hold on. The hydrogen atom possesses a lot more energy.
God
Why?
dang, Zanick, I know women that are easier to please than you. Holy crap.
Well, he just shot himself in the foot
This
when he
is
said that the hydrogen
Dunning-Kruger
atom.
at its finest right now.
Zanick, you just shot yourself in the foot when you said the hydrogen atom contains much more energy. And when I'm asking you, do these things contain energy? And you're trying to imply that they don't. They're energetic in nature, which is what we're talking about. But you guys
So
try to
how
pull
much
mass
energy does the
away from
hydrogen atom
energy,
contain?
even though it's all boiled down to energy when it's on its atomic scale. So yes, we have energetic interactions between all of these things. It's not a bending and warping of space-time. It's the energetic interaction between the fact that the mass will pull on the magnetic and dielectric field, which substantiates all of the energy that we have within this whole entire universe.
That's your theory, but you're not really backing it up with any information that's palatable or even sensical. What I'm asking you, if you say that atoms have energy, I'm asking how much energy is in a hydrogen atom, and someone quoted something in joules relating to an electron, but that doesn't answer the question. So, do you know how much energy a hydrogen atom has or possesses?
I can get that too for you. I was just looking up. I thought you were disputing the whole particles thing being like.
don't
Are
care if
you?
you want.
I think the whole point though is when you say it doesn't have substance, he's like walking you through a logic tree. It's been like there's been like many. He's been saying like, okay, we have 100 volts per meter. We have everything in the universe, known in the universe, called matter, is held together by these by energy of some sort. So it seems like he's going somewhere with it. So if you don't answer this point
Not
or
held
say
together by
yes,
energy.
I agree to this point, yeah, it can't go forward anymore.
Well, I don't agree that it's held together.
Besides that, Zanick, let's go back to what you said earlier, dude. What did you say
Go ahead.
earlier? You said energy and mass
are not the same.
Are not the same.
There's an equivalence,
Okay.
and there's an equation which is E equals mc squared. That's the equivalence
Yes,
of
mass and energy are fundamentally the same, as described by Einstein's famous E equals mc squared.
Never actually meaningfully derived, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. But still, in the paradigm, they are the same, dog.
They're not the same. You're taking that out of context.
Okay, Zanick,
If it was the same, it'd be
What's the difference?
Guys,
if it was the same,
if it was the same, look,
Zanick.
Stop for 1 second.
If it was the same, it'd say E equals M.
Zanick,
E equals not equal M.
Galtrax is trying to moderate.
Just let me moderate for 1 minute.
Chill out, dude.
Before we went off on a 20-minute tangent because you wanted to argue about if further or farther, which are interchangeable words, are able to be used interchangeably. Mass and energy in the mainstream science paradigm are considered to be fundamentally the same, according to Einstein's theory of relativity. If you want to disagree with relativity, that's a different position than the position you're taking.
No, in the context of relativity, yes, but that's context is everything. He said.
Okay,
he's
well, how
talking
do you
about.
think we got here? Because of Jake, right? We were talking about space-time.
We're talking about the
That's
definition
relativity.
You want to know what causes?
And by the way, find any.
God, I can't even get a word out, dude. I'm responding to you.
If you want to invoke a reality where they're not the same, or you want to invoke a different theory where they're not the same, then specify what theory you're invoking. But otherwise, why would we think that you're invoking anything other than relativity when the discussion has been predicated on you defending relativity? It's so absurd.
No, because he's talking about the cause you're talking about, or
No, that's not what I asked. I said specify what theory you're referring to where energy and mass are not the
that's
same.
not the context I'm talking about. Yes, in the context
That's
of
what I'm asking for.
Equals MC
Present it.
squared. I'm talking about. He's talking about energy. Atoms are comprised of energy, energetic. I thought he said particles. It could have been components. I'm not sure. What did you say? What was the term? I thought I said particles, but was I wrong?
It's irrelevant.
No, he didn't say particles.
Elements. Okay.
Energetic properties.
They have energetic properties. Okay, so you have energetic properties of all these components of an atom, but inside the nucleus is the neutrons and the protons. We have the electrons, right? But then we talked about this energy that this atom produces. I said, well, if it has energy, then it should be able to have a measurement or some type of value. What is the value of the energy of a hydrogen atom?
You're asking this as though the fundamental makeup of these things is not energy to begin with. You just skated past when you're like, yeah, there's protons, neutrons, and electrons, but where's the energy and how much is it and how is it calculated? You're skirting past the fact that the fundamental building blocks of the things that you're trying to refer to, the elements you're trying to refer to, are comprised of energetic properties.
And how does that provide a traction from one atom to another?
Zanick?
That is the only definition of these things, and the only way we differentiate them on an atomic level is based on their energetic differences.
Of the electrons that are orbiting, of the electrons
which are always numbered the same as the protons.
Could I ask you guys something? Is anyone here familiar with obscurantism? Do you guys know what obscurantism is? Anybody?
I think there's a picture of Zanick next to the definition.
Okay, so
I would argue modern science.
Obscurantism or obscurantist jargon is when someone uses overly technical, convoluted, or obscure language to give the impression of intelligence or authority while obscuring the actual argument. The stuff that Zanick is saying is just a bunch of words relevant to science, but not relevant to the actual argument that either Naplam or Toby or Peter presented. This is obscurantism.
It is because it boils down to what Jake said then about Coulomb's law, or about how many coulombs, how much energy is happening, or
honestly,
the energeticness of the atoms as you go up in the atmosphere, going down because there's less atoms up there, basically.
Honestly, Zanick,
hold on. Even the voltage is going. You're using this as a fundamental foundation for the basis of your understanding of what gravity is. We talk about it being an attraction of masses, and it has the same principles as sometimes in electronics as the inverse square law and other types of magnetism, which is nothing to all of it, by the way. You can have in dipole magnets, you have an inverse cube law, but that's one other topic. But we're talking about this 100 volts per meter being the fundamental cause of the attraction. However, why didn't anyone ever mention putting a lead sheet between two layers and finding out then the attraction goes away? Those objects that are above it that are being supported by a Van de Graaff generator, suddenly those objects fall if you put a sheet of lead in between them. So I don't think that's a reason for why things are actually levitating or attracting or falling or accelerating.
Yeah. Bottom line
just
is
take a step back for a second. Can we actually go back and forth with Jake, because he's the one that brought up the charge potential being what did you say? You said that it's just because of the charge gradient. You said it was a denser.
The charge gradient going down as you go up.
The charge density gradient.
Okay. So
even though voltage potential is increasing with elevation,
I'm
disconnected here. There's a charge density gradient. The Earth's atmosphere acts like a capacitor between the plasma and the ionosphere and the surface of the Earth that creates a voltage gradient. But the actual charge gradient is like the atmosphere, right? The density goes down as you go up in elevation.
You're going to educate us about what we told you about?
But here's my question. I guess I should get a better understanding of your position. Is it your position, because I'm just assuming that this was basically what Witsit was saying, which is that the explanation for why things go down towards the surface of the Earth and why it's in that direction, right, in that vector, is because of electrostatics. So is it your contention that the reason why we have gravity, that what we call gravity, is actually a form of electrostatics? Is that what the contention is?
I would just point out. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily make the direct correlation, but I would simply point out that it's a better piece of evidence than the lack of a graviton.
But we understand.
So I have a causal mechanism to explain at least part of the phenomenon, maybe all of it. You have none.
I mean, how can you argue against electrostatics, though, in the first place, just to be honest?
No, we're not
Especially if you
arguing
believe in the atomic model.
Electrostatics are well understood, even down to the quantum level. Gravity is not understood down to the quantum level, right? That's part of what they're doing at CERN, right?
Electrostatics are not understood down to the quantum. Electrostatics are not understood down to the quantum level. It's riddled with paradoxes.
We've got to go quantum.
Yeah, I'd like to go quantum. You guys want to go quantum?
It's impossible to explain.
Oh man, there was a guy about a month ago, Toby, where he was super into QFT, right? And bro, he was like, you don't need to have a field. I'm like, what is the field propagating in? He's like, it's just another field. And then he just kept going on infinite regress about like, well, the field propagates itself. Dude, it was crazy.
Fields on fields on fields.
Fields on fields.
And if we just give everything its own field, but we don't ever define field, then we're perfectly fine.
Right.
It was nuts.
I still don't see how you can just attribute.
Something can exist in a field that's in another field, but it's not in the first field.
I still can't understand why you guys would jump to this idea that the reason why things accelerate towards the surface of the Earth is because of electrostatics. There's lots of experiments you can do yourself that show.
Well, hold on. We don't. Well, there's two different things here that we should probably just be real clear on, right? Because we started off talking about Cavendish, and then we switched over to the downward acceleration. So, like, we were kind of at one point arguing about mass attracting mass, and that being an effect of electrostatics, and then the situation with the downward accelerating force could be quite a bit different. It's based on a charge potential, based on you even said the capacitor in just the sky yourself, but I can't go up there and do any sort of testing with independent and dependent variables, so it's hard to make any sort of objective assertions about that.
Fair. Yeah, it's fair.
But also, I would just point out, like, it's a really different paradigm, and like it's fair to be confused about it, just like it's fair to be confused about relativity, which is riddled with paradoxes, and which representatives of modern physics can't even get special relativity right on their own podcast. It's paradoxical, and that makes it difficult to explain. So just because we don't have an explanation doesn't mean we have to accept your paradoxical explanations. And that you shouldn't be offended by that. You shouldn't feel threatened by that. It's just from our point of view, from our research, these things don't add up. We have our own paradigm we've come to, acknowledging a background medium, which was believed by modern science up until the 1890s when they tried to measure the motion of the Earth, and they didn't measure any motion of the Earth. And ever since then, they had to throw out a background medium, and now we have an infinite nothingness between every little bit, every little atom, every little particle has an infinite nothingness between it. Instead of having a logical background medium in which everything floats, in which everything moves, in which everything is connected, which would perfectly explain an ether drift, which is observed in the sky. It perfectly explains Airy's failure when they tried to use water in a telescope to figure out where the refraction of the star. We know that the starlight is refracting. Is it happening? Are the stars moving, or is the Earth moving? Where is that refraction taking place? Which movement is causing it? Oh, looks like it's the stars. Well, I guess maybe we have if we go back to a background medium, which was so many experiments have corroborated. Look at just simple Fresnel drag test, just water dragging light with it. It shows that there's a medium in which everything is existing within. theories of relativity, special relativity had to be augmented with general relativity because of all the flaws that it was presenting within trying to explain gravitation and the cosmos. And now we're in paradoxes upon paradoxes, and we're on like the fourth or fifth order, multiple. We're way beyond orders in many cases because we're doing computer simulations using computer farms. That's how illogical all this is, because we're just trying to do computations of patterns in the sky. This whole thing is based around a presupposed fallacious atomic model. And if you can't step back from the atomic model, if you're going to presuppose the atomic model, which you've never physically observed in your entire life, my dog is agreeing with me, then how are you going to argue for an atomic model? It's the craziest thing ever. Sorry, I'm rambling, but you
make a good point, Toby.
So
you make a good point where they take the background medium, which can explain many of these things, right? If you just give it physicality and you understand that it's an energetic background medium, you don't have to go off into la la land and orders of magnitude into paradox after paradox, because they try to replace that with the conception of the bending and warping of space-time, which is nothing more than literally just a conception, a placeholder to put in there to fill in for what would be a physical interaction of energetic bodies that takes place within an energetic background medium, which was established previously, but their conception of the Earth moving was not substantiated, so they had to go off into frickin' la la land and say that, oh, time slows down and space contracts and all of these things, but you can never measure it, because if you're measuring it, if you're trying to measure the contraction, the device is contracting in the same space in which you're trying to measure it, so you're never actually going to come up with an actual substantiation of the bending and warping of space-time. It's never going to happen. It's a placeholder conception for trying to get rid of the energetic background medium that makes way more sense, especially when you break everything down of physicality down to its bare bones, to its baseline level. It all becomes energies that are attracted, not attracted, repelled, all of these things based on energetic interactions. So it's much easier to explain it that way if science would actually get over this Einsteinian frickin' splinter that was put into us, I think, just to get us down the road of not actually fully understanding where we're at and utilizing the energies that are around us for the betterment of humanity. That's just my opinion, but I feel like the controllers want to make sure that we're constantly dumping more money out of the average person to put it into science, to go down this freaking path, this maze of trying to figure out the fundamentals of reality, because we understood it previously and we took it away from us.
All right. You guys are cooking tonight.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I heard Jake trying to ask a question. And by the way, Jake, I appreciate you stopping a moment and saying, wait, before I say this, I want to understand your position first. Props on that, by the way. Did you have a question? Were you trying to get in when Toby spoke?
I don't know. I honestly, I lost my train of thought after that 5-minute monologue.
Yeah, it was a long monologue, but I just my main point is that the premise the system has committed to an unfalsifiable claim, and so everything has wrapped up around that unfalsifiable claim, and as time goes on, it has compounded into further and further orders of magnitude, and now that's how we get all this crazy quantum science that doesn't really add up and is riddled with literal paradoxes.
My biggest question is why do most of you fight so hard against it without trying to maybe understand the position and look into it, see if it's plausible, right? It's almost as though the Agent Smiths pop up in the Matrix to help support the matrix every single time. It's like if you're so hell bent on this conception of the bending and warping of space-time, which hasn't gotten us shit ever since it was put into existence, right?
Oh, sure.
And you guys are hell-bent on trying to substantiate that, but most everybody doesn't fully understand the conceptions of relativity, can't explain it properly, and have no actual causal mechanisms except for this fictitious thing that we want to claim, which are basically putting together two different measurements, which are privations, but we're going to use that as a placeholder. Like, why do you guys fight so much against trying to figure out whether or not that is or is not?
What
they've tested it,
Naplam. You say, Zanick?
Tested for it. They tested that in near a large mass, that actual time would slow down. They know this, and they use this in very, very precisely. They can detect this much more than the old days when they didn't have cesium and other types of atomic clocks. Now that they do, hold on. They can measure this time dilation, this slowing down of time with relative to an observer very easily, and that's basically how. Hold on, this influence over time slowing down near mass is counted on and shows how accurate these GPS sensors can be to detect where your position is all over the Earth within a couple feet. This is because of time being warped, space-time being warped.
All right.
So because of that, we have a lot of it's been revolutionary for our physics and for our technology that we know this and we can prove it scientifically.
Okay, I'll grant you that. So when you say that time is slowing down, what is time? What is its physical properties, and how are you measuring that it's slowing down?
Are you doing it empirically?
I just want to see what his. Hold on. Let me clarify real quick. What is your conception of time? What is its physical makeup, and how are you measuring that physical thing is slowing down?
So the progression of existence is time. Would you agree?
Absolutely not. I think that time is a measurement, in the same way that inches are a measurement, centimeters are a measurement.
No, they're not, because you just mentioned three things. Hold on, let me respond to you. You just mentioned three things that are not independent measurements. They're based on someone's finger. They're based on rotation of the Earth. Those aren't absolute. Hold on, they're not absolute. What is absolute? What is absolute? Hold on. What is absolute? Hold on. I'm almost done. It takes a second. You guys went for 5 minutes. You guys go on 5-minute monologues, and I'm just responding with sentences, and I get run over. Just let me finish the sentence. So those are not absolute. What is absolute is the oscillations of a cesium atom, for example.
Okay, so all right, cool. So the oscillations of a cesium atom. So is that time?
You can divide.
Oh my gosh, the cesium particle is the time particle.
They do not change.
Is cesium the time particle?
You can call it that.
So you think that time is a cesium particle. So can you explain when you said that time? Hold on, dude. Let me finish. So when you said that time is the progression of things, right? So you said time is the progression of
existence.
Of existence. Hey, let me finish. So when you said that time is the progression of
exactly. Okay, progression of existence. Got it.
Come on, man. Progression of existence. So the progression of existence is cesium.
The particle.
Time is just a measure. Ultimately, time is just a measure of change, right? It's change.
So it's a measure,
which is related to movement, right? If everything was frozen and had no movement, then there would be no meaning to the word time.
Correct. So what you're saying there is no actual physical conception of time. So how can you slow down something that is not physical? What is slowing or speeding up?
The rate at which reactions in our physical world are happening.
Oh, so the rate of the cesium?
There's a natural. Hold on. There's a natural. Hold on. I'll tell you. There's a natural. I'll tell you if you listen. There's a natural frequency of these. You know what a natural frequency is?
Yeah, like an oscillation rate. So it always has this one, then you bring it near a big mountain or something, and it changes. Is that what you're saying?
No. There's a specific.
That's exactly what it is.
No, I'll tell you what it is because I
Human
know
resonance, whatever.
You may know.
Whatever.
I'm just asking you. A natural
Go
frequency does
explain
not
to us
just a
how time's
frequency.
physical. What's it made of? Cesium?
Season's one type. Season's one type of atomic, the component of atomic clock. There's a reason they use the natural frequency of the cesium atom. Do you know what that means? I mean, just high level. I'm not trying to call you out or say, "Oh, I'm so smart," but I do know.
It's the oscillation rate of that atom, right? So the oscillation rate of a specific atom, which is consistent, they use that tick.
It's more than that.
Yes.
Because it's consistent to measure time in the same way that the wristwatch that I'm currently wearing, right, uses a tick.
Well, no, there's
tick,
those
the finger.
Those are more susceptible to. Those are more susceptible. Those are more susceptible to the inaccuracies and inconsistencies of the materials. Springs, for example. Cesium atoms.
I get it.
You might learn what natural frequency is if you just hang on. You might learn something here. I'm just saying.
You're going off on a tangent. Napalm was still going.
No, I'm not. I'm letting you know that this is the
Napalm was still going. You're interrupting.
Let him go. Let Zanick finish. Don't let him ramble. But let him finish.
You haven't given me 7 words that I can say in a row without getting interrupted. You know that.
All right, you get 8. No, I'm just kidding, Zanick. Go ahead.
It's okay. I mean, I know you're getting excited, but
just
so natural frequency.
You're good.
The natural.
I'm not excited.
The natural frequency means that if I send something,
my wife gets me excited. Not you, Zanick.
I can set a bunch of different frequencies at the vibrations at a cesium atom. And at one point, when my frequency equals the natural frequency of that atom, that's called the natural frequency. It spikes up, and you can see that's where the oscillations get greater. It adds to it. It's like you're hitting something that's already in motion at the exact same velocity that it's moving. It is a real weak analogy. So cesium atoms, quartz atoms, all these atoms have oscillations. Now, cesiums are much more accurate. And there's actually other atoms that are more accurate as well. But the point is, they never change. And so that becomes the template of, at least if we know this is always going to oscillate at this particular rate, then we know when it changes versus another measurement of that same atom in a different environment, for example, higher up, and it measures very, very small distances away from the surface. You can just go 10 feet, 100 feet, and we can measure the differences because we're getting farther away. Because we're getting farther away, because of the inverse square law, we know that the gravitational force is less. Right? That's why we know that time slows down, because we get farther away from the mass the time actually slows down.
That's where you go off the rails, right? Because when we increase in elevation, we've already established previously in this conversation that you have a change in the energetic levels of the atmosphere. So when you have a change in this energetic background, things tend to act differently. So you never explained to me what the actual physicality of time is that is speeding up or slowing down. You're just relating it to the oscillation rate of a specific energetic atom, which can be affected by energies outside of it. So as you continue to change the energetic background in which it's placed in, getting further away from the surface, you change the oscillation rate in its the way that it relates to its surroundings energetically, right? So can you explain to me what time is physically, other than trying to relate it to something that is an atom? Because you're just saying, well, this atom oscillates here, quartz oscillates there, blah, blah, blah. And when we change the location of these fundamental atoms, and we know that when we change their relation, we have an energetic change that takes place as well, and they seem to oscillate differently, you're still not explaining why time is speeding up or slowing down. You're just explaining why these energetic bodies excite or oscillate differently in a different energetic state.
Can I take this one, Zanick?
Please.
Jake, you want to respond?
The problem is, right, the way that this stuff works, right, this stuff is in a microwave, like the cesium atom, right? It's in a microwave chamber where they're bouncing off a microwave within this cavity, and then they're measuring the resonance, and that's how they're figuring out their timing. So your contention is that, if we change, within this electromagnetically sealed container, if we change it within the charge density of the atmosphere, that we can influence that. But that would then be an easy experiment to conduct, and you're not going to have any evidence whatsoever that moving this cavity chamber from sea level to 5,000 feet to 10,000 feet to 20,000 feet, or artificially creating some kind of a electrostatic field around it, that it's going to in any way influence the vibration of that cesium atom within this cavity chamber. You're not going to have a single paper to show me that that's the case. That this is something we should even be concerned about.
I can explain that because the energetic background medium permeates everything. So you think that you're shielding the fabric of everything because you put it in some sort of containment that is comprised of energies that only manifest out of the background medium. Give me a break. Are you guys that dense that you can't figure
Go
out
ahead
that
and
the
show me the paper. Then show me the
medium
paper.
of everything in reality
Hold on, Naplam,
permeates
real quick.
everything, and the energetic relationships between those can't be shielded from the background medium. It permeates everything. It's where every energy manifests from.
Real quick, Napalm.
Jake, I got something for you.
I just want to.
Wait, really? Can I just really quick, Jake? You mentioned you asked for the paper on that.
Yes.
That's quite a bit of math to go over. I would just say if you actually are like in good faith asking, there's a Russian who's written about it, who has tried to put together a full conceptual model with all of the math for a quantum etheric model. His name is Adatovsky. There is some translated, some English translations of his work floating around out there. Also, you could check out the work of a Ukrainian named Galev.
Yeah.
Hey,
but
I think Jake,
and there's actually there's a bunch of English. There's a bunch of English and American authors writing about it these days too. Like I actually, I have another book I would suggest checking out.
The whole idea about the atomic clocks running slower away from the surface of the Earth. That's all. It's happening, but it's caused by some type of lack or additional energy in the environment. Is that what you're saying, basically?
You think that Adam is time. Both of you, when I've asked you, cannot tell me what time is and what is physical.
I already did.
Makeup.
The progression of existence is time.
So it's
the
cesium?
progression of existence.
Here's the thing, Zanick. Time is, for me personally, time is a constant. Okay.
This is a waste of time.
Time is a constant.
That's weird because from a human perspective, time is not constant. What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's not constant for us.
I think Tom.
I respect that. A weird thing for a human to say.
Remember how long it took for you to go through school in the morning? From 9 to noon was like forever to get to lunch, and now it's fucking close your eyes and it's noontime.
Time as a concept, it's a measurement. That's it. It is not something physical. You're trying to relate it to something physical. And when something physical changes, you're saying that time is speeding up or slowing down. That is incorrect. So if I run really fast, if I run fast, I'm not changing time. I am just running fast. That's it. I'm not increasing or decreasing time. I am
just conflate the Lorentz contraction with bending working space time. Hold on.
Hold on, what? You're interrupting me.
I mean, if time was just a construct, then that was completely useless. Then we wouldn't have cooking.
Nobody said it wasn't useful. Why do you guys put words in our mouth?
Well, funny how I can't respond to what you said earlier. So Jake, what about this? If they think it's some kind of energetic state that changes this time, so it's not really time changing, it's just that this mechanism is actually oscillating faster is what he's implying.
Now you're strawmanning us.
He didn't say it changes time. He's saying it's changing the cesium.
Yeah, changing the cesium. Yeah,
affecting the cesium.
Okay,
it's not time.
So what? Got it. The cesium is related
if I freeze the cesium,
can I just finish the thought again? Can't get two words out without getting run over. I have a simple thought, and it's a question. I don't want to put any words in your mouth.
You're strawmanning.
I promise. I'm not. No, I'm not. I promise I will not. If I am, I apologize and restate it
again.
Okay.
So
let me be more clear and accurate. And relax.
I'm gonna be as clear as possible, but I can't when you guys are talking over us. So here's the statement.
Zanick.
You need to take a chill pill. Let me just finish the statement again, fourth time. Let me request.
Go ahead.
Just quiet. Okay. So if this energetic environment, this ether, whatever you're calling it, above us, is changing the physical attributes of this cesium atom, then why can't we at sea level near the Earth, put it in some kind of chamber, and provide some energy, explosion or electronics or some kind of magnetism, whatever, and simulate this particular phenomenon. Because you know what? We can't. That particular atom will always oscillate at this particular rate. It's a given. It's a natural frequency of the atom. It's like if I have a tuning fork and I hit it, probably a bad example because it'll probably change different underwater. But in a vacuum, that no matter where you put it, that thing will always vibrate at a C note, at 400 hertz or whatever, 200 hertz, whatever the frequency is for a C. Boom, always, no matter where I hit this thing, because that's the natural frequency of that particular steel. This atom has a similar type of characteristic. No matter where you put this thing, it'll always oscillate, have a natural frequency, and if you excite it with a frequency that matches it. Oh, really? How's that?
No matter where you put this thing, it's always going to be the same. So if I increase my elevation from the surface of the Earth, is it going to be the same?
Yes.
Oh, so then that completely negates what you were talking about previously.
No, time slows down. The person on the
Jesus.
So when
it's relative. You missed the key point. You missed the key point, guys. You missed the key point. Don't you want to know the key point you missed? If you're sitting by that particular thing and you're giving it a frequency that equals natural frequency, you can laugh all you want. But if you give it the natural frequency, it will still oscillate, and you can see it on a spectrograph what's going on. But the difference is the relative to the person on the ground. That's the difference we're talking about. The difference between that cesium atom oscillating between above the Earth and on the surface is different, even though they are oscillating the exact same rate.
You place it in a different location of the etheric field. So I will agree that the conception of space-time is similar to the conception of the ether. We just disagree on whether or not one is physical or not, right? And the energetic background medium has different fluctuations. And when you place these energies into different portions of that energetic field that has a different let's just say, like when you put a mass in it, right? The same way you guys want to talk about like a fabric that's being bent when you put a bowling ball on a sheet, right? That is a very good idea and concept, but if you want to talk about that in 3 dimensions, what's actually being warped is the lattice work of the dielectric and the magnetic, right? So when you get further away, you have a difference in that etheric field. So things oscillate at different rates because you're changing the fundamental background has changed, which means that the fundamentals of the elements that we have only here on Earth that we test all the time, where you say, oh, no matter what you do, it never changes. Yeah, because you're in the same portion of that energetic field at all times. So when you move in different portions of that energetic field that have different values, you see differences. It doesn't mean that time, which is literally just a measure and a conception, is speeding up or slowing down. That's where you guys get way off the rails.
You keep on saying that, but that's exactly what you're saying. And you can figure out a test in your own mind or conjure up in your own logic of how you can actually test whether these clocks are still operating at the same frequency.
Are they
same
natural
clock
is not time.
I mean, I can't fit. There you go again. That was 9 words. I said 9 words and you still jumped. I let you talk the whole time, and I said 9 words and you jumped in. Just let me finish the fucking sentence.
Then quit crying and fucking finish it.
I'm not crying. It's every time. It's so annoying. I've never had a conversation with you before.
You sound like you're crying.
I'm not crying. I'm trying to help someone understand basic concepts.
Hey guys, he is getting interrupted a lot.
Thank you. So think of something in your mind logically that you could actually make it for a test that could take the cesium atom, whether it's on the ground or in an airplane or in a satellite, to detect whether the vibrations actually change. The rate at which this thing is vibrating is going to change at the higher elevations above the surface of the Earth. Now, what they say, it may or may not be true, and you can use your logic or your ideas to try to prove or disprove this. They're saying that it never changes. That cesium atom is incredibly accurate for its oscillations, natural frequency, and the frequency you give it being matched to it. You can have an electric generator of frequency, and you feed it to it, and it enhances that particular natural frequency. And you can tell that's happening by how it shows up on a spectrograph or an oscilloscope. So That's what they say. You're saying it's something in the atmosphere making that cesium atom perform differently. I think that's a stretch. I don't know if you have any evidence for that. That's my
never
question.
said that.
Hold on, Zanick,
I never
real
said
quick.
that I never said that it's something in the
Real quick,
atmosphere. Go
I just
ahead.
wanted to clarify. So you're saying you're bringing this up, Zanick, and you're saying basically time slowed down, aka time dilation, and you're saying time dilation, therefore, what?
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. He's saying that
time
since
near
this
large
oscillation
masses.
rate happens.
He asked me. Time. What I'm saying is time slows down near mass. Larger mass, more of the time slows down. Farther away, they're all related. By the way, we have
What is
Lorentz
time?
contraction. All those related to this. The bending of how mass distorts what you see, like where it is for like the other objects. Everything is related to the time dilation. That's where it all started from.
Yeah, it started from Lorentz with the Lorentz contraction to try to explain away certain things within Michelson-Morley. But let's go back to time. So you say that time is causing the cesium atom to oscillate. Can you explain to me what time is and how it causes the oscillation?
So space-time is being warped in the presence of mass. That's the theory behind it. And what time is, I told you already, it's just the
cesium atom.
No, it's the progression of existence.
Oscillation. So give me the physicality
progression of existence
time.
is time. Progression of existence is now changing because time and space have been warped. This warping of space-time is what causes the attraction, this perceived force, this pseudo force, as we call it. And it also changes, and then special relativity then rolls into time dilation. It's ironic that they're related the way they are, but they're both related. It's part of the same concept. It's just different families of the technology of the math.
What?
And the
so
physics.
You said, so before we get too far along, correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying that time is the progression of existence. So, is that right? Am I right in that?
Yes.
Time is the progression of existence. Okay. So, what physically makes up the progression of existence?
How to answer that? What do you mean? What makes up its progression? It should be self-explanatory. It is explanatory. The progression of existence, our progress through our lives as humans, or some object's progressions through its life, is what time is. And we can measure that with respect to the oscillation of a cesium atom, the natural frequency of a cesium atom. No, that's not the thing that it is time. It is the ruler for which we measure time. Time can be measured by all sorts of other things. It could be, and they're much more obtuse. We have the rotation of the Earth around the sun, how fast something grows.
Everything. Come on, let's keep it just to time, right? So progression of existence has some physical effect on matter that is what? Progressing through its existence. So are you getting into this like infinite regress of the matter progressing is causing the matter to change its progression? So what is the physicality of what you call time, even though you admitted that it's just a measure? So a measure is nothing physical. It's just how to, let's just say, quantify physicality. So the quantification of physicality cannot affect physicality. It can only measure physicality. So where is the physicality that is speeding up or slowing down or affecting matter? What is that comprised of?
You said a lot right there, and a lot of I would call that a word salad. Generally,
it wasn't. Hey, dude, where's the empiricism? Where's the empiricism, Zanick?
You could be. Hold on. You could attach or maybe equate the effect on matter with things like radioactivity. You could do that. The half-life, for example, there's a certain amount of time. They say it's 1,000 years of half-life for this particular radioactive material. That would be one way to affect of matter. It's just sitting on the table, not so much. we're talking really about it's relative also.
Measurement.
Relative. Hold on. This cesium atom is like the kind of the gold standard of time progressing. We know that time progresses at this rate, and we're equating it to the cesium atom.
No, we don't.
That's our ruler. That's the ruler.
We don't.
However, the ruler changes. Hold on. This ruler changes when it gets when it's farther away from the Earth. It starts to what? Speed up or slow down?
You say that. Hold on. You say that time progresses. You say that time progresses at this rate. What is time that is progressing? Because you said that time is the progression of existence. So now you're saying time is progressing. So what is progressing? Existence? So you're using existence to measure existence because existence is moving through existence because we know that there's a measure of a rate.
I didn't talk in circles. I attached the value of every variable and every aspect, every component. Was very well explained. You went on a circular logic type of argument.
So what is time again?
And you're gish galloping as well. Listen, I'll make it real simple. Right. We're not bending. We're bending space time, not a component, but both space and time are both bent by being in the presence of mass, and that is general relativity. Special relativity is the warping, or excuse me, is time dilation.
We know what they are, dude. We know what they are. What is space and what is time?
We know. You were the one that rambled on about everything being the same in circular logic. That's not what I said.
He's trying to get you to define space now, right? Let's just try that.
The distance between things, the volume between things.
So it's a measure of the distance between physical things. So you're saying the measure of the distance between physical things is contracting without physical things being there. So it's contracting, or are the physical things getting closer or further away?
Well, physical things can contract, and there's like a ruler can change its length if it's going near the speed of light.
So is the physical thing contracting, or is the distance between physical things contracting?
Well, the distance between the observer and the object. That's what it's not the object itself being contracted. It's the distance between the object's, the size of the object, and the observer watching this thing go by at a different speed. That's why they call it relativity. This is what you keep on thinking of these objects themselves. Even Wissett was doing this for a long time. He thinks that, because the mechanism actually shrank because we're going so fast. No, that's not how relativity works. Relativity works by comparing what the viewer, the observer, seeing to the object that's actually moving at a different speed. If you're two spaceships going through space at near light speed and you shoot a laser to the other one, it's gonna hit you right on the money there. There's nothing that's gonna drag it through.
You have no actual physical empirical evidence that takes place.
Yeah, they do.
Pew, pew. Oh,
yes, they do.
So what spaceship is going at the speed of light and shooting a laser at another?
You're saying you have empirical evidence for this, Zanick?
Yes. Empirical evidence. In fact,
I have a couple questions.
Wait, hold on. You don't think that Zanick, I don't want you to actually agree to that.
Amazingly accurate empirical evidence. Amazingly accurate. You don't even know what it is, and we should go over it.
Specifically a spaceship going the speed of light.
No, not
Come on,
I'm giving you a general idea so you can conceptually understand the concepts.
I'm not here to understand I'm not here to understand your warped concepts.
It's not a warped concept. So the empirical evidence might help you understand, maybe. I don't know.
And all you want to do is just warp concepts.
It's not a
Zanick, what did you claim? What did you claim to have proof of, Zanick?
Spaceships going the speed of light, shooting a laser towards each other.
Light. We can shoot light with lasers and measure the return signal. And there was a very famous test of this. And how they determine the speed of light. Hold on. Now this
so we're talking about energies that are speeding up and slowing down. So we're not actually talking about space or time. We're talking about the rate in which energy propagates through a fucking medium. Always.
Really? So how does a laser gun? How does a laser speed gun work? If I'm chasing somebody at 100 miles an hour, why isn't it going through that medium and giving me a different reading than when I'm measuring that same exact velocity difference between a stationary object and something moving at 100 miles an hour, for example? Why do I get the exact same reading from a laser gun? I'm going through the medium.
You're still making this argument, Zanick?
It is the medium.
It's ridiculous. Oh, yeah.
It is the medium.
I think Zanick's secretly an ether boy at heart.
I think he is too, dude. At this point,
he's trying so hard.
You're a cop. You have your laser gun. You fire at this guy as he zooms by.
The only government worker here is you.
Hold on, guys.
I'm curious as to your response. I really am. Just let me give you real quick and see what you said.
All right,
and this is really fundamental. This is really simple. So,
okay, then I got a couple questions.
As a bunch of guys having a couple of beers, talking shit. Just let me say this one sentence, and I want to know what your interpretation of this is, as for a cause. So a cop sits at an underpass. Guy flies by in a Lamborghini going 200 miles an hour. Okay, he gets a radar track on him, 200 miles an hour. Boom, 200. Now he rolls after him, and the guy goes to 300 miles an hour, but you're going 100 miles an hour. And I hit the laser gun, and the laser gun still says 200 miles an hour. He's going 300. You're going 200. He's still going 100 miles an hour faster, or was it 100? I don't remember. It's the same difference as when you're under the underpass, seeing this guy go by at 200. So it's 200 mile an hour difference. I chase after him at 100. He's now going 300. It still registers 200. How is that possible in your world, in your understanding of how light works and your ether and all that? It seems like it seems like the medium would be a problem, right? If you're needing the medium for the light to propagate, how does those same values work out?
That's the issue. Light is the medium, right? So you make the assumption that there's some sort of particle that's being shot between these two people. That's not what's taking place. So as he's traversing through the same medium and he excites the medium, that excitation of the medium is going to propagate at the same rate. So he's going to get 200 miles an hour.
Wait, so he got 200 miles an hour, and I think it might be. Think about it a little more, critically here. You're under the underpass. Lamborghini goes by 200 miles an hour. You shoot a gun at him, you go boom, 200 miles an hour. I got a reading, boom. You're saying that the entire medium is the light, and I've just excited it, and I got a reading of 200 miles an hour, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, light is the medium.
Now suddenly I chase after him. He's going 300. By the time I get going, I get up to 100. He's going 300 now. And I still see him. He's still going away from me, and I shoot the laser, and I know exactly he's going exactly 300, and I'm going exactly 100. Why does it still measure 200? If the medium, if what I'm going through is the light, I'm going through it at a high velocity. Why isn't that skewing the results?
Why would you expect it to?
Because you're going through it. You're moving through this medium now, and that's something excited. How does it measure that same differential speed as that was when I was stationary?
Why would you expect it to be different? It's not water.
It's just I would think it's like friction.
Example, non-reality.
Zanick.
I mean, hopefully it makes you take pause to think about what you're proposing.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, this doesn't sound very empirical at all.
You can move through the etherical medium, and by exciting it, even if I'm moving through it, it measures the exact same differential speed to an absolute velocity that's the same.
Just because it's getting further away from you at the same rate, it doesn't matter.
Hold on, Naplam. What are you saying, Galatrax? You're coming in. It's super low.
Oh, am I quiet? Yeah, I was just gonna say, Zanick, this doesn't sound very empirical. It doesn't sound like empirical evidence or empirical proof.
I mean, there's I think you're kind of, I don't know, Zanick. I think you're missing something here, because the speed of light versus 200 miles an hour, like, what are you talking about? How would that?
What you guys are missing. Here's what you guys are missing. The whole idea is that under relativity, the speed of light is always the same. No matter how fast you're going, it will always measure the same.
Through what medium?
That shouldn't be. What do you mean through what medium?
Yeah, what medium?
Yeah,
when is it always?
And
constant?
it's never supposed to go. He's right, and there's a really important, caveat to that, and it's never supposed to change with regards to your speed, regardless of whether you're moving or not. That's how that was the Michelson-Morley experiment. This whole premise it's not congruent with the outcome of the Michelson-Morley experiment. That's why there's special relativity. That's why I'm saying Zanick's argument here is it's not a very good pro relativity argument.
I think for him, this was more of a luminiferous ether argument, right? Is that if the light has to propagate through a medium, then that medium is stationary relative to object. Well, which I don't even know. Maybe that's not your contention. Is this medium?
All right.
Is this
If you're
medium
getting
that the light propagates through? Is it stationary relative to objects moving through it?
No, it moves at a different rate. But really quick though, if you're going 200 miles an hour, and the car in front of you is going 300 miles an hour, you're going to have a 100 mile differential on the way there, and then you're going to have a reverse 100 mile differential on the way back.
But the problem is, if the speed of light is, if the speed of light would have to be changing if it requires this medium to propagate through that the cars are moving through. Right?
It's not supposed to change at all with regards to either of the speed of either of the cars.
No,
otherwise we would be able to detect motion of the Earth.
You can't, because
so like,
why would it?
Here's a better way to think of it. Okay, like if I have a spear gun, right, and I shoot that spear gun, it can only travel through the water at a certain speed, right, because of it, whatever the force and its drag and all that, right. If I'm traveling, if I'm in a submarine, or if you put that spear gun on a torpedo that's going through the water, and you fire that spear gun, it's not going to move nearly the distance it's going to move away from the front of
because
that torpedo.
The variable you're just trying to get to the variable of viscosity.
Because it's going to be dragged. It's going to be dragged backward, right? Because that spear that spear from the thing could only go so fast, right?
Mm-hmm. If you were doing it through mercury, it'd be even slower.
Right. And so the idea is that if the light requires some kind of a medium to pass through that sets kind of its speed through there, unless somehow now the light could go faster through that same medium.
It is the medium.
I don't know if you get where I'm saying here, but that's basically what Zanick was doing with his example, was this idea that if the cars are having to travel through a medium that which light propagates through, is that medium stationary relative to those objects the same way that the water is stationary relative to the two torpedoes chasing each other?
Yeah, because even if you had, I'm trying to think of analogies.
Can we answer his questions? Yeah.
Hold on, Zanick.
I mean, there's a completely different degree of magnitude with the those are not really good examples, because light moving through air is different than a torpedo moving through water. It's a totally different level of viscosity, different phenomenon, and as Napalm's line was explaining, the medium itself is what is being excited, but the movement, the excitation is still, it's occurring it's relative to the motion of both both vehicles. So, there's no problem for that within the etheric framework. Maybe if we had an insanely thick ether, then that would be a problem. But especially when you take into account the thing mirrors back anyways, so you get a differential there, and then you get the opposite differential back. It should be the same.
No, that's not true. Jake made it very clear that you're still going through the medium at a one directional speed.
In my torpedo example,
even though it's going out and back, you're still moving through this medium.
Light is the medium. That's what you guys. This is where you guys get it wrong. You're trying to say, oh, but if I put a spear through water, and then if the spear goes through the water at X amount of rate, it's like, okay, we're trying to measure the water between me and the fish, not a spear that's going through the water, and an excitation of the water between the fish and I. So if there's a compression and a rarefaction of the water between the fish and I, does that change your idea or concept that you're trying to noodle on?
No, I think he's. Don't you thinking a little bit about the fact that you're moving through this ether, and if the ether is what's being excited, if light is part of the ether, then why wouldn't moving through it be detected in this test? seems like it'd be almost a no-brainer that it would, but maybe I'm just not thinking about it in the right way. For me, remember, these are all foreign thoughts. These are your thoughts. This isn't conventional physics at all.
I mean,
but I'm listening to you. I'm interested in your. You guys are being very creative and you're making some good points. But I'm thinking where the loopholes are this ether. How does it know when the light is being excited from a source when it's moving or not moving through it? How does that change the dynamics of the light propagating through this medium, as you said?
It's not sentient. It has no knowledge, right? It just is. So what do you mean? How does it know?
Here's a better way to think of it, Zanick.
Okay, go ahead,
Just
Jake.
out of another better way to think of it is, if you're just measuring the frequency of light, right? And
good one. Yes.
And we're just measuring that we have an emitter that's emitting light at a particular frequency, right? Particular wavelength. I'll just use the word wavelength, right? At a particular wavelength, and there's a detector on the other end of it. We know that due to relativity, that no matter how fast you accelerate that contraption up to, you will always receive the same frequency. You're not going to shift that frequency.
The premise of this whole thing disagrees with that. Zanick, explain it to him.
I kind of missed something, Jake. Are you talking about like the Doppler effect? So that's another point I was going to bring up.
No. Yeah. But exactly, what you should expect though, if the light is having to travel through some kind of a medium that's moving that's relative to the vehicle that's passing through it, then if you like in an airplane, if you set up inside an airplane an emitter at a particular wavelength, and then a receiver that measures that wavelength, then what you should expect is as the airplane goes faster and faster, we should start to see some kind of a change in that wavelength.
Right, and that's another good point. So we don't see that. Also, not only is there a time difference, that the lasers are very good at measuring the time difference between what it hits and what it reflects back. Now we don't know the one-way speed of light, but we do know the two-way, and that's all we really care about, and that's very accurate. But on top of that, there is a Doppler effect, which will blue shift or red shift that light too. And we can measure that change in the wavelength. But so that should change, since it is the ether that is being, excited. When we're moving through it, this detection of this object moving away or coming toward us would be offset or be affected by whether we're moving or not through it. That's the point, I think.
Yeah, sure. So like I said earlier, the permeativity of what you're taking your measurement through would be relevant here. And so in this case, I think it's negligible. And that experimentation seems to indicate the same thing. Now, if you shoot light through water, it actually goes 40% slower with the speed of the water. It'll go 40% slower against the water relative to the speed of that water, and then 40% faster with the speed of the water. It gains momentum, or quote unquote momentum. It's not actually moving. There is no momentum. It's just going with the actual medium, and that's related to the viscosity of the medium itself. The water is more dense than air, so it has a totally different propagation difference.
But here's the gotcha in the whole thing. If you measure that speed decrease, you measure it in the air, and then you measure the speed decrease when you fill an aquarium full of water and you pass the light through it. It doesn't matter if that aquarium is sitting on the desk of a lab on the ground, or if you're like on a supersonic jet and you measure it, it'll still get the same result, which you wouldn't expect if you have an airplane that's passing through this medium, right?
That's a good one too. Oh boy,
that's not sequitur. That makes no difference.
Wait, I'm not even sure if that was accurate. Can you repeat that?
Whether you make this, that's part of the whole thing with the luminiferous ether, right? Whether you do this experiment, and also with relativity, that the speed of light is always constant. Whether you do this test in a lab where you're passing it through an aquarium on a desk, or you have this inside an airplane that's going supersonic, you would still get the same result. Both in the speed of light measured and in the decrease.
I think we're kind of talking past each other, because I think you missed my points. I kind of glazed over the Fresnel drag. So are you familiar with the Fresnel drag test?
No.
So you take water. Basically, Fresnel set up an experiment back in the 1800s, but you can still do it now. You take water, you shoot it down two pipes going in opposite directions, and then you run you basically build an orthogonal interferometer. So you shoot light through both the water going each direction, and you find that with moving water, the water will attain 40% the speed of that movement of that water. Either it'll go 40% faster with the water if it's flowing with it, or if it's going through the flow, or it'll go 40% slower if it's being propagated against the flow.
Jake, you should really check that out if you haven't seen that.
Yeah, but that still doesn't solve this problem.
But it's just you a few of your statements about relativity were in contradiction to that. So I just want to make that clear.
No, it's not in contradiction to that, because all that we're doing is we're changing the rate at which the speed of light travels through that medium by accelerating the flow of that medium, right?
Not
sure, yeah, I'm on board. I'm on board, sure. I mean, you're disagreeing with Einstein, but yeah.
When we're looking at when we're trying to determine why does the speed of light decrease when it passes through a denser medium, like through glass or water or even air, right? The interaction of those of the atoms, the photons interacting with those atoms as it passes through. You can see why, if those atoms are moving in a particular direction, whether they're stationary, that would affect this. That would affect those photons. In the same way that if we bounce, in the same exact way that of how a LiDAR gun works, that if we bounce a wavelength of light off the surface of something that's moving towards it, there's going to be a redshifted, Doppler shift.
Yeah. See, the problem with this whole thing is, like you're accepting the classical explanation for Fresnel drag right now, and I'm totally on board with that. It's a good explanation. It makes logical sense. The problem is in 1905, when Albert Einstein put out on the electrodynamics of moving bodies, the very first page of that, he talks about how the ether is superfluous, and he says, inasmuch as the ether is superfluous, we cannot invoke what's the word he says? We cannot invoke absolute space. We cannot invoke a point A and point B in the space between that. So which is exactly what you're doing with your explanation of the Fresnel drag test. That's why nowadays you can go and find people trying to use general relativity math to explain light getting dragged through water.
I mean, look,
so your explanation, I like your explanation, but it does not agree with modern physics.
But here's the thing: is that Fresnel drag test will yield the same result whether you're doing that in the lab on the ground or if you're doing it on the Concorde. You'll still yield the same result, right?
Can you prove that though?
Right, because there's even been multiple patents made by Toyota, a man named Ryong Wang, another company I can't think of, Ryong Wang, yeah, Wang Wang, but. These people there's multiple patents out there for interferometer-based detection of motion. You could put essentially orthogonal interferometer on an x-axis and an orthogonal interferometer on a y-axis, and then according to these patents, you could theoretically determine your movement through absolute space, and that's based on experimentation, multiple experiments, which were done by Ryong Wang in 2004 and 2005, and also just studies on GPS and the way that GPS clocks are synchronized.
Toby, are you saying there's an absolute reference frame?
I mean, it sure seems like it, but if you want to try and explain these things, according to modern physics, you can't say that.
But it seems as though, in reality, there is one.
I mean, I also would just say that, my gut, every instinct of my being kind of seems to think that makes sense, but, I'm happy to not live with paradoxes. That's for sure. You can accept paradoxes if you want, but I choose not.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. It's a paradox to think that something is propagating, but not through a medium. If it's a wave propagation, like what's it propagating through then?
But that's the thing.
The light just goes forever.
Even the way that you state that, Beast, though, like you open the door from them to be like, but it's a sphere through water. And it's like, no, it's the compression and rarefaction of water that we're talking about, not some object going through it.
Well, I was hoping someone would take the bait.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's all right. It's okay. Basically, I was hoping someone would say, well, there's a wave function, the
right. They always want to talk
wave
about
duality.
frequency of light based on its wave. Well, what's waving?
I mean that's why I think ether is a necessary logical assumption. I know it sounds weird that way, but I think it has to. It has to be.
And you don't have to. You don't have to deny atomic measurements to consider that paradigm. It's just the atomic measurements have function and they make sense. It doesn't mean that the mechanisms that they use to explain their measurements are meaningful. The mechanisms they use to explain things are riddled with literal paradoxes. They don't find the things they go experimenting for. We have to have a graviton. We have to have one, or the whole thing doesn't work. They haven't found a graviton. The whole thing is based on unfalsifiable premises, multiple layers of unfalsifiable premises. I don't understand. I get that you want to believe in the globe. That's fine, whatever. But why would you be here? Why are you arguing on behalf of unfalsifiable premises that, it's so bizarre to me.
Well, Toby,
hold up. I'd like to hear the graviton thing. So what do you mean they have to use the graviton?
That's how there's no mechanism for gravity for mass attracting mass. If mass attracting mass is why everything in the world or the universe is happening the way that it is, all these orbits and all these balls that are floating around, everything, and gas coalescing into solids, which they still can't do the math for, into planets, all these things. If you want to believe in all that, then you have to. You have to have gravity. Gravity is it's the linchpin of so many of these things. And so you go to the quantum scale. You think, oh, we're getting down to atoms. We're getting down to protons and neutrons and electrons. Now we're going into the protons and neutrons and electrons. We're getting into quarks. We have we've got so much technology. We should be able to find a sign of gravity. We can put forward a scientific experiment. Whoa, what an idea. Hypothesis. There should be something that's causing gravity. Maybe we'll call it a graviton. This will be our theoretical, little particle or whatever it is that's going to pull things together. That's going to cause this mass attracting mass phenomenon that we use as our linchpin for everything. Well, they've never, in all these years, found a graviton. There is no meaningful measurement of it by any way, shape, or form. It's just a missing piece of the whole thing.
Yeah, because they can't tie it to physicality, right? They can't tie it to anything physical, which if in their conception, they would need to have some physicality to it. They conceptually do it through space-time, right? The bending and warping of this fabric, but this fabric has no actual physical properties, but somehow it has physical effects on objects that reside within this conceptual framework, which is where they go way off into, left field. Where the ether framework is hey, there's this energetic background medium, which sure, there can be the more energy that you condense within a specified area has an effect on that energetic background field. And that warping of that energetic background field is due to this condensing of energy that we would call mass. And all things are comprised of these condensed energies. And as these condensed energies move through the overall energetic field, you have interplay between it. They want to say, no. Everything is comprised of these energies. We have fields, but these fields are purely theoretical. They're mathematical equations about probability, and we want to give them names like space-time, which we can't define space, we can't define time, but if we squish them together, conceptually, our mathematics works out, but there's no physicality to them. When it's you're just mathematically working out the physicality of the background medium. So the mathematics doesn't fucking change in what's taking place in their measurements. That's why they always say, well, give us your framework, give us your math for the ether. It's the same thing because the effects that things have in the physical world can be explained mathematically, but mathematics only it doesn't explain it, it just defines it. The explanation behind it needs to have some sort of substance, and that substance is the etheric background. Theirs is a conception. The mathematics doesn't change, it just defines it.
Question, Toby. So Is it like a photon? Like massless? It's a charge-carrying particle
the
or whatever?
graviton?
Yeah.
I don't really know a lot about gravitons, to be honest. Like, I just know that they've never actually measured one. I mean, there's nothing to know, right? Like, there's no evidence of gravitation.
They don't exist, bro.
Exactly.
It doesn't exist. The graviton is a made-up thing. It doesn't even exist.
Right. But I was just trying to figure out when you say like they need the graviton to exist.
There's just because you have to have an explanation for mass attracting mass. Like it's just an empty. There's with no mechanism. Why what good is it? At least we can try and use Coulomb's law, right? Like that actually is measurable.
Right, Toby. That's why I always ask them for what is your mechanism, and everybody just like goes off into left field and tries to divert the conversation into something else. When it's like you're claiming mass attracts mass, what is the mechanism? They can never actually say what the mechanism is.
Yeah,
right, and it's definitively never been measured. There is no such thing, like even by modern physics admission.
It says it has no mass and travels at the speed of light. Gravitons have not been directly observed, making them a hypothetical particle.
That's the magical word, mystical. The mechanism.
Yeah. They need it as the force carrying particle of gravity.
Exactly. They need something to transfer how the gravity works, the mechanism of the grav. That's what they don't have. That's where the graviton comes in, which they don't have.
It's crazy.
It's like it's fair to ask questions about the flat Earth model to an extent. Why? What is that? Why does that happen? But it's like so this would be the same thing posed back on the globe model, and it's to the most like I said, a linchpin. Mass attracting mass, and it's just a simple why. Why does mass attract mass? And there is no answer.
Dude, I'm under the suspicion that most globe defenders don't even know what a graviton is. I barely just heard of it just now.
Well, but it doesn't exist. Like, don't give it existence, bro. It doesn't exist. It's not a thing.
I'm not saying it's existing at all. What I'm saying is that their conception of it, if like you're gonna boil it down to like, okay, what's carrying the gravity? What is gravity? What is it made of? And they're basically saying it's this hypothetical particle called a graviton that basically carries the gravitational force, which is nuts.
They're never going to find that's non-existent, right? But then when you try to get even their conceptions boiled down to its fundamental level, everybody understands that it's interplays of energies, right? Like everybody can, I hope, agree upon that, right? When we boil everything down to its most fundamental level, it's an interplay of different energies. But they want to skirt past that and be like, yeah, but that's technically, just because it's energy and you have these energetic interactions that we do see attraction and repulsion, it's actually something different than that we haven't found out that doesn't relate to energy, but it is energy because everything's energy, but it's not because it's mass, but we'll skirt past that. It has to do with space and time, and space is the distance between masses. So you need masses to even define the space, but the space is a privation because it's not actually anything in and of itself. It's only defined by the distance between things that are actually something. And time is just a progression of existence. So what is existence? It's not actually a physicality, and a clock just measures ticks. But we think somehow that there's some sort of actual physical thing that's flowing through the clock that it's actually measuring, which it's so crazy.
Oh my God, wait. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So the photon is the force carrier of magnetism. Just like the graviton, it's massless. And it's just an explanation for it. It's crazy, dude.
It's like dark matter, bro. It's like dark matter. Same thing.
Yeah. Oh, Fresh, you're hot
My
mic.
bad, I got it.
Okay.
It's actually worse than dark
Got
matter
it.
because
The graviton
this
is
they
like
cannot
is analogous to the
incorporate
photon.
into their.
Sorry, Jesse.
Go ahead, Essie.
I was just gonna say it's even worse because they can't incorporate this into their grand unified theory, into the theory of everything, and they're never gonna be able to do it because gravity doesn't work at that small scale in their own paradigm. So it's never gonna happen. It's a fantasy within their model.
But they're going to be able to collect a whole bunch of money from taxpayers to try to figure out how they can try to sometime in the near future, at some point, give you that theory of everything. Trust me, it's just around the corner. Just give us a few more trillions.
Okay, here's a question. Let me ask you, Zanick, real quick. Is it because
I was
there's...
going to add to what you said. I think it was actually good. Someone said something about the equivalence, or maybe the analogy that the gravitons would be something like light is, a photon is to electromagnetism. I think you mentioned, someone said that. That's actually probably a good approximation. I thought we can't, probably not going to be able to find something that is luminous like a photon, but I think the relationship might be, they're throwing it out there. Maybe it's not needed, but they're thinking it should be because they have gravitational waves. They have gravitational wave detectors.
Well, not
such as
waves.
LIGO,
Not waves, bro. Hear me out. This
gravitational
is what I
waves,
wanted
yes.
to ask you, though, real quick. I
The
just wanted to ask
gravitational
you
waves are what are
specifically.
being detected from LIGO.
Well, hold on. No, besides that, I want to talk
They-
about this specifically. I wanted to ask you a specific question. Do you think the graviton and the photon, in terms of its conceptions, are necessary to uphold the atomic model in that paradigm? Do you think that's why they're even, thrown out there as a possibility, because they have to keep to the atomic model, or
No, I don't.
these
I don't think
little balls just flying around hitting each other? You know what I mean?
Although atoms are mass, I don't think it's required to support the atomic model. Remember, they had a big bet with LIGO and the installations like them. There was a couple of them in the U.S. that this was not. Some people thought it was going to work, and then just by luck, there was a huge event that happened of star exploding, a supernova in the skies, and they predicted when they would feel and how much they would feel and what the effect would be on this device, which measures gravitational waves, and lo and behold, it did work. So the billions they put in.
I have a question about that.
Go ahead, Toby.
How come when they put through the false positive the first time, when everyone got really excited and thought they detected the first gravitational wave, how come none of the employees knew that it was fake?
I don't know. I don't know that story.
The first gravitational wave. Yeah, they did a fake test. They announced they found gravitational waves, and then it came out that was actually test data. And then if you go and watch videos of the guys that work at LIGO talking about all the subsequent detections, now of course the head, I can't remember the dude's name, but a lot of the higher ups, they're all gung ho about it. But if you go and look at the footage of the
that's
actual
a very
employees at
important
LIGO,
point that Toby just made. It can't go unnoticed, right? It's very important. It has to be repeated, right? There is a mechanism in the LIGO detection system which they can fake right up until the time where they have to bring it out to the media.
Exactly.
So there is a mechanism by which they can fake a detection. I want that to be known. Like, that's very important.
Zanick, how do you fake stars colliding billions of years ago in a specific portion of the galaxy? How would you fake that?
They don't fake
neural
that.
networks. Sorry, excuse me.
They don't only detect.
And what has to be understood also
You let me
is the
answer.
detection process
I stop when you start
means
talking.
that the space around, the space in between the mirrors, what they call a Furrow cavity, expands and contracts, right? This has to be understood, right? This is what they're detecting. They're detecting the expansion and contraction of space itself.
Hey, real quick, Essie, can you hear Zanick?
No, if I clipped him, I didn't hear him at all. Sorry.
Aha. That's okay. You might have him muted, or you might need to
Say something,
reconnect.
Zanick.
Yes, 1, 2, Mr. SE. Yeah, you might have talked at the same time, but I was
If he spoke,
answering.
I didn't hear him, so I don't know what's going on. Let me drop
I'm
and
talking
come
now.
back.
Do you hear me talking now?
Okay.
Wait,
Yeah, no, he can't hear you, Zanick.
SE, do you hear me now? SE, you probably have me turned off or something.
No, he's going to drop and come back. I don't think he can hear you, Zanick. But go ahead.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. But Zanick, you were asked a question. Napalm, do you want to repeat your question to Zanick?
I got the question. So not only do they measure the gravitational disturbances, the gravitational waves that are created by exploding stars, but they also detect constant gravitational waves of black holes. So that's some of the initial tests that they received and detected. But the big one was the supernova.
Well, you're assuming that they did that. But yeah, Toby just brought up a point that they literally have the ability to fake a reading.
Well, not even that, but just do you see why it's like, yeah, like do you see why that's problematic? Like the data that they look at is literally it's noise data that runs through, multiple. It runs through a convolutional neural network. It goes through multiple layers of normalization. It goes through. It gets extrapolated across multiple dimensions. It gets pulled across. It gets quantized in different ways. They approach it in every different analytical fashion that you can, so that they can try and extrapolate a gravitational wave from that. So if you don't have a proper chain of custody on your data, and you had fake data that all the employees thought were real, do you see how that's a problem when you're looking at noise?
Sorry, so JPL's detection of this within the Gravitational Wave Observatory LIGO, they made the detection that was the collision of two black holes. Supernovas are also detected, but this was the biggest one because it had so much energy behind it, and there's such an effect on the space time that it sent ripples through space time that could hit us that this detector could actually detect, and it was one of the largest registers of probably we'll ever see in our lifetimes on this particular device. Happen to have.
Do you understand what Toby just said?
What's that?
Do you understand what Toby just said, though? How they actually got this data and what they did? I remember this being like one of the first times I actually came to Aether Cause presentations, was going over this at LIGO, and how they use the CNN, right, a convoluted neural network, to basically say, okay, these two black holes colliding, this proves Einstein's field equations, this is exactly what they were looking for, right? But in reality, if you look at the paper, it's literally noise data, and they basically had matched samples, right, that they were looking for. So they were looking for a specific thing that matched what they were looking for, and then they basically threw out all the data by running it through these neural networks until they got the right matches. So in essence, you could fart, and that could be considered a gravitational wave if they took out all the noise. You understand how this is not really a proof or anything like that? And they had financial incentive to do this because they had $2 billion invested into them, right? It's a public funded thing, and they needed to show results, and lo and behold, they show results right before the media event took place. So I mean, it's kind of, there's a lot of red flags, bro. So.
Yeah, but there was a lot of correlation between what was seen through the telescopes, through the observatories, as well as what was reflected back from this event at LIGO. So, and others. At the time it was LIGO.
So here, look, I would say, like, in my opinion, things in the sky, in my framework, right? Like things in the sky, a supernova, like something happening in the sky could have an etheric effect that could affect light travel. One of the problems I run into with this is that when you extrapolate data through computational layers like this, you've gone to multiple degrees. You're in multiple orders of magnitude, like orders of magnitude upon orders of magnitude of approximation. There's nothing meaningful here. This is just, you're not able to, like, because you're measuring something, it does not have anything to do with special or general relativity. It is layer upon layer upon layer removed from any connection to reality or any meaningful explanation behind what actually occurred.
Perhaps a more detailed explanation is needed for how they measure this, right? If you guys give me 30 seconds, I think I can do it justice to explain the absurdity of it.
Hey, before you do that, I just want to say I'm going to bed. Love you all, including Zanick. Just kidding.
Sweet dreams, son.
Later, Napalm.
Yeah, good to chat, Napalm.
As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go check out something else. I will be back later, you guys.
I should drop. It is late for me.
You should come stop by real quick.
Stop by.
And Aether cause.
Oh. Okay. But it's been a pleasure, y'all. Zanick, thanks for being respectful.
Sure.
Glad to see some things never change.
We'll be back.
Got it, guys.
Latrix, great modding.
Your homework. See you tomorrow.
You too. Later.
Do they travel in a team or what? What happened there?
They're paid. They're paid by the Flat Earth Society. Actually, they were actually contractors for many conspiracy theorist organizations. They work on contract. They probably have a meeting. They're all going to a meeting right now.